Tipp today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp Today. 1800 938 007, our free phone number, won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us. And Leanne is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, I'll be speaking to Cllr Michael Brennan. He's in studio with me. A listener shares the story of an accident that changed her late husband's life. Cllr Jim Ryan opens up about his frustration around what's been happening in UHL. Irish Examiner columnist Sarah Harte will give us her take on colour casting on our screens. It's Internet Safety Day 2026. We'll hear from students of the Pres in Clonmel. Plus, we'll chat to people about what keeps them positive. All of that and more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tippfm.com. Now, as you're aware at this point, we've teamed up with the Jack Doyle Irish Pub in Budapest to send you and a friend away for St. Patrick's weekend. You'll win flight, luxury, city centre accommodation, sightseeing, a Danube cruise and dinner and drinks at Jack Doyle's Irish Hospitality in Hungary. Now, to enter, all you have to do is listen out for the song Budapest by George Ezra. When you hear it, text Budapest and your name and details to 083 311 3311. We will choose 10 finalists and the winner announced on this programme on this coming Friday the 13th. So celebrate St. Patrick's in style with Tipp FM and Jack Doyle's of Budapest. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers today. The Irish Daily Mail, the lead story there. It's going to annoy the hell out of you, but 3 defence lawyers earned almost €1 million each through criminal legal aid payments last year as the bill for the state-funded scheme surged by 37% to a record $115.3 million. The Irish Examiner and the lead story on the Examiner today: more than 38,000 crimes were committed last year by people out on bail, including 84 linked to murder, attempted murder or murder threats. And also, and playing into a couple of the conversations we'll be having on the programme today, also reading on the Examiner that half of children aged 8 to 12 are being exposed to the risk of engaging with strangers as they have no parental restriction on their gaming and chatting online, a survey has found. To the Irish Times. And the Times dominated by a picture of Keir Starmer looking rather sort of pleased with himself when you consider what he's battling at the moment. But they're telling us that the UK Prime Minister was engaged in a desperate rearguard action to save his premiership last night following an extraordinary day indeed in Westminster when one of his biggest allies turned on him. Also on the Irish Times today, Garda suspensions more than doubled last year, rebounding close to record levels, with a growing number of members now suspended after allegations of gender-based violence. These include coercive control, domestic violence and sexual assault or sexual misconduct cases. Finally, we'll have a look at The Independent, and it's dominated by a photograph of chef and restaurateur John and Sandy Wire with Gordon Ramsay at the Michelin Guide ceremony in Dublin yesterday. The Wires restaurant, Forest Avenue, got its first Michelin star, and when you love what you do, it's easy, says Mr. Wire. So the main story there on the Indo today, though, ministers will be bypassed for major infrastructure projects under new rules aimed at cutting red tape and shortening delivery time by 20 weeks. So that's a look at what's making headlines on some of your newspapers today. If you want to make comment on any of that, once again, 083 311 3311. Now, Cllr Michael Brennan was in touch with the show this week to share his concerns about what he is seeing on the roads, and he's with me in studio this morning. Good morning to you, Michael.
Morning, friend, and good morning to your listeners.
And it's good to see you today. You were telling me off air, Michael, about what you witnessed where e-scooters are concerned, and we're getting a lot of complaints about e-scooters.
Yeah, look, friend, I suppose, you know, I'll just go back to that Saturday evening. We were going to the match in Cork, and this was I knew last week I was going to be coming on talking about these courses, but this is just an incident that happened on my own experience. We pulled up in Cllr to get a coffee on the way down to the match. Now I know I drove into my parking space and I was reversing out. Like normally I like to reverse in and drive out as is the best and safest way. But we were reversing out and waiting for traffic coming from the Cllr the hotel side. Nothing coming. We looked on the other side, nothing coming. And just as I was removed the Jeep to reverse out into the road, I was told to stop by my passengers, and the next thing, e-scooter crossed the road diagonally, so we didn't see him. He came from the footpath and zoomed by like.
Wow.
Now, you
could have easily hit him.
If I had to be on my own, he probably would have been hit.
Wow.
That would have been it, like, because I mightn't have seen him between looking in the rear view and the mirror on the door, like, you know what I mean? And it was just like, it didn't seem to faze him. I got a fright, and it just made me more aware of how dangerous the scooters can be on the road, because they come on the blind side. Of course, no high vis, there was no helmet, and it was just flashed by, and that was it, like, you know. And I suppose, like, since Christmas, a number of people have contacted me in relation to scooters where children got them as presents at Christmas, and they're in local villages and things like that. And I witnessed firsthand as well myself on a number of them, 3 and 4 kids on scooters. Everyone loves to get a Christmas present, everyone loves what they want at Christmas, and you know. But where I'm worried here, Fran, is the dangers that parents, by giving these presents to children under 16, of where they're putting their children at stake. Like, you know, we hear it every day in the radio that the biggest brain traumatic injuries with children is from scooters, like, you know, and everything is advertised about it. We don't see high vises on them, we don't see the helmets. And like, I know if you got a bike yourself at Christmas years and years ago, you went out cycling with your father or your mother, you were given a high vis, you were taken by the hand, you were always kept inside, you were given the kind of the general rules of the road, how to cycle, how to behave on the road. With the e-scooter, that doesn't happen, because the parents are not on a scooter as well going out with their kids and showing them the ropes, you know, and they don't stay in the footpaths. And if they do stay in the footpaths are highly dangerous, because we've seen several injuries where people have been knocked down by scooters. And
in fact,
injuries
it's illegal for them to be on the footpaths.
And it's illegal to be on the footpath,
place,
you know. And again, like, this is going back, like, what does it take for the government or the legislation to be put through to get a definitive line on these scooters? Because they travel at speeds more than what they're supposed to travel at. I think 20 kilometres is the regulated speed for them. And, like, you know, we look at the scooters there, or the scramblers last week, they brought in a law into place, and, you know, Lord Mercy and poor Grace Lynch was named Grace's law. You know, we can go back to 2014, Jake Brennan knocked down in Cllr in a housing estate. Jake's law. Are we waiting for somebody to be knocked off a scooter as a child and calling it that law, like? And we don't want that to happen, like. We just want to have safety on the roads for the users of the scooters.
And what is your understanding, Michael? Because they're illegal on the footpaths, they shouldn't be on the cycle paths either, so they have to be on the roads. But are these things suitable for roads?
That's the question we need to look at, Fran, I think, on the wider scale. Like, are these suitable on the road, like, you know what I mean? Because you also have the electric bikes as well that can go at speeds higher than they're supposed to go as well. And it's safety is the thing, like, you know, if you're travelling in your car, the distance it takes you to stop. Like, if an e-scooter is travelling at a speed of 35 kilometres, which they can travel and more, maybe, I believe, like, the impact there is going to be so severe, and that's why we see the results of the injuries. So, like, I don't know, like, where it's going to start with. It'll start with Deputy Michael Murphy on the Rocklands Transport Committee. They have to get some kind of legislation through, because we are going to see more and more of these on the roads. We are going to see more and more injuries. But the last thing we want is to see another fatality, that we have to name another law and pass it in no length of time then, like.
Well, if you were drawing up legislation for this, Michael, what would you do? High vis and helmets?
Well, high vis and helmets would be just the starter, like, you know what I mean? It would be the starter, but, like, you'd have to curtail the speed of these, like, you know what I mean? And I know the guards can have a machine now that they can test them and take them off them and the whole lot. But I just think we have to start, like, and it goes back to a lot of things starting the home, like, you know what I mean? I think if the parents are buying them for the kids, they need to be very, very careful that first the age is right.
Yes.
That we're not giving them to the younger children. That's where the first one would start for me.
There was a lot of talk about the scramblers. It seemed to be mainly in urban areas, but have you any experience of those?
I haven't seen any experience of it, but what disappoints me about the scrambler thing is that 3 years ago this could have been passed and should have been implemented, and it wasn't. And it takes the loss of a life of a family's daughter who's out on her own thing, doing her own thing, enjoying her, I think it was a Saturday it happened, And for that to happen, like, but yet our government could come along and then we can implement it straight away, like, you know. That disappoints me. That.
But there was legislation there,
There
my
was legislation there,
understanding
but it wasn't enforced.
It wasn't enforced.
It wasn't enforced. And you go back to Jake's Law, that was put in, I think, in 2015. There was a big protest, and that didn't come in until the speed review came in 2023-25, like, you know, where housing.
So are we moving too slow on all of this?
We're moving too slow on all of this, yeah. Especially when it comes to road safety. And like, look, Fran, I suppose I witnessed it myself. In Christmas, we had a tragic accident involving a member of our own community, and it was very sad, like, and it affected a lot of people in our community. And I suppose over the month of January, I spend a lot of time on the road. I'm a full-time counsellor. I'm in the office. I go to meetings. I'm up in Nina. I'm back and forth. And at the weekends, like, I'm out on the road and going to matches. I see a lot on the road. Take last Sunday morning, even going to Kilkenny. We were doing a wedding fair in the Cllr Hotel, and we forgot to pull up stand. I said I'd go back halfway and I'd meet my daughter. Arranged to meet her outside Grange Mokla. I was going by Paula Capel, continuous white line, a kind of a small, to me it was a Toyota Starlet, but a bit souped up, black car, overtook a car coming against me in a continuous white line, and I had to brake and slow down, flashlights and the whole lot. Now, where we're always told you don't overtake on a continuous white line. So, you know, driver behaviour is a lot of it that we have to look at here as well, Fran, on the roads.
But Michael, there was never as much education as there is now about what's going, you know, about speed.
There is, but are we getting it?
No, we're not.
Are we getting it to the right places with it? Like, you know what I mean? You like, we do the driving test, and it's all done inside in the town, and it's an hour, and the people that are doing the lessons are under pressure because they have to be ready for another lesson. Then the testers are doing it because they're under pressure because there's a shortage of them and they're ready to do the next one.
There's no motorway testing.
There's no motorway testing. There's
roads,
nobody rural road driving and the whole lot. And nighttime driving is only in around the town where things are, you know. But I do see it, friend. There is a culture there in with the behaviour of the drivers on the road that, you know, and I see a lot of things happening now as well. Another thing that has been cropping up in the last number of weeks for me, and it's been brought to my attention on rural roads where cars are pulling up, and I'm not saying to young people, but when the car pulls up at a rural gate or a kind of a lay-by or something like that and it pulls away, there's probably a couple of bottles of vodka, there's a couple of Red Bulls and different bottles of drinks
thrown out of the car. So
there's a culture in it that, and if you see it as well, like, you know, that if you might have the driver that's driving the car and he's not taking a drink and they're tick-tocking and they're snapping and the whole lot, and maybe his passengers are having a drink. And, you know, it's a distraction, friend. It is a distraction. And the guards have been saying that now in the last number of weeks. Even the cup of coffee is a distraction now in the car.
But isn't that the drawback about the speed vans? Because all they can do is measure people in terms of the speed that they're doing. But they have no interaction, obviously, with the person in the car. And they don't know what's going on in the car.
And they don't know what's going on. And that's the thing as well. Like, but, like, you know...
So do we need... We obviously do. We need more police.
We need more police. We need more enforcement. Now, I myself will be bringing a motion to the council in March in relation to speed. We're just finalising it there at the moment. We thought we'd get in for this month's meeting and we didn't. But it's a motion we're going to try and get passed at the council meeting and to make it further, because the last thing we want to do is lose lives. Like you see, now I'm not saying like it'll be speed restrictions or anything like that, but like you see the lorries have a certain restrictor on them that they can only go to speed they need to go at, like, you know what I mean? And that is all documented in their tachographs and the whole lot, like. So, like, we have to cut down the speed. The speed has to be cut down, and it has to be enforced by the guards as well. And I know there we are again lacking in the numbers of guards, like, you know what I mean? Because, and then, like, you know, the speed vans to me don't really serve the purpose anymore, because the people coming against it will highlight it and flash the car that's coming against them, and you slow down out of a shot, like, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. And fair play if you're bringing a motion about speed to the council, but really at the end of the day, Michael, what good is that?
Well, we have to get it. We have to look, friend. We have to get.
But that won't get you more Gardaí.
It won't get us more Gardaí, no. But it might make the road. We have to make the road safer, and speed is the biggest killer.
Right, but what would come from that motion? I mean, you know, they're ignoring the speed restrictions anyway, so, you know.
I would hope that would come from the motion, friend, like, and I don't want to say too much about it here today, but, like, whether it be speed limit or speed restriction on a certain age group that we will be focusing on. But as I said, I don't want to let too much out today before we have it finalised. Like, I'm talking to people in the RSA, I'm talking to people that are doing the lessons and the testers and the whole lot. So we're just trying to get everything right that we go with it, and it'll be something that will be useful, that will be implemented. And I would hope that it'll be a strong enough one that if the council here can pass it, that we get every other council to pass it and bring it to the legislation where it needs to be brought to.
Some time ago when you spoke to me, you expressed very strong feelings about sulkies and sulky racing and the like. Do you have an update for me on
Yeah, well, look, I suppose, even... And I hate using incidents that happen to me, but these are things that happen on the road. I was coming in from Cllr the other evening as well, and that was early last week, and there was 2 sulkies on the road. It was getting dark, and it's the worst time of the evening to be on the road. And I just said to myself, here we'll be going again with this now for the rest of the year, like. And we did speak about this last October. We did throw an olive branch out to some people that had rang into us here on the station, and nobody reached out to us. But I will be calling and working on that we do get sulky racing, that there will be a total ban. I won't be turning my eye on this, because I said, like, when I spoke here in October, that we will be continuing with it, and that'll be it, like, and another thing, Fran, I just want to say is that it's like, you go back to Dublin last week, there was a sulky and there was an accident up in Dublin just off the motorway, and the horse was the side completely tore along where the horse skated along the road, left on the road. Shortly then, about 2 days later, there was a mare and a foal left on the side of the road to die. And, we're blessed to have all these animal shelters that go out and do the great work that they do with the animals. And cruelty is the thing that comes up a lot for me, Fran. Like, I was 2 dogs that I picked up myself off of the bypass here on Clonmel on the N24. And to me, did have injuries, but not injuries that were sufficient for me to say that they were hit by a car. And it was amazing that the 2 dogs, same type of dog, were 100 yards apart. Now, I was very disappointed that them dogs were taken off the road the following morning when I had requested for them to be taken that night and taken up by the council. But I did ask for a follow-up back because I wanted to get clarity on the injuries of the dogs. Like who ties a ratchet strap around a dog's neck, like, you know what I mean? So that dog obviously had to be broken out, or he was left loose or left out in that road or whatever, like, And I suppose there was a thing happened just in Kilkenny where with my lovely horse rescue, there was a giant committee operational day done in Kilkenny, and it was with the Kilkenny County Council, and it was with the Kilkenny Garda Síochána, the NSPCA and the National Council of SPCAs as well. And that was to ensure that they went into sites and different places where animal cruelty was well known to them by calls that had been made in and the whole lot. And that was a very, very successful day yesterday in Kilkenny. Now, there was a number of Gardaí involved in it. It was very well organised. And again, this is also part of educating people, the support they need to give.
Right.
If they take an
Are
animal.
you calling on that kind of action here in Tipperary?
We will be calling for that action to happen in Tipperary, and I will be
Can you do that through the council?
We'll be doing it in liaison with the council, the guards, the NSPCA, and all the local animal welfare shelters and rescues.
Again, when you were on with me and we discussed, and Jimmy called in and we had a good old discussion on air, a bit of argy-bargy, but there was a decision at the end that you would all meet up and maybe something would emerge from that. Has that meeting happened?
No, that meeting didn't happen, Fran. That meeting didn't happen, and as I said, we had to open our arms to discussion with Jimmy on that, and it didn't happen. I was disappointed a few days later. I saw a delegation of Jimmy and his friends with the members of Sinn Féin in a photograph and talking about welfare and horses and sulky racing and all that. So I would have hoped that he would have opened up and come to myself, and at the time Deputy Matthew McGrath and Liam Brown as well, like.
But that might still happen.
Well, maybe it'll happen. Like, we're always open, like, you know what I mean. We're always open for discussion, and we need to hear their side of it as well, like, you know what I mean. Because it's not that I'm anti-travel or anything like that, but I'm on animal cruelty and road safety are big things for me, Fran.
Right.
Because I don't want to see any more friends lost. I don't want to see any more animals lost. And I just don't want to see... Like, you take, for instance, yesterday at the council meeting, there was 49 horses seized last year on the roads in County Tipperary. 3 of them were reclaimed by owners. 46 were rehomed by the council themselves. And that comes at a significant cost to the council. It's €772 plus VAT just to remove them. Then they have to be homed for a minimum of 5 days, and then after that it's extra costs on top of that as well. Now, of the 46 horses that were rehomed, like and like as I said just even at the council meeting, I know for a fact none of them horses will be running in Cheltenham in next month. And, you know, that's an expense that is put on the council, and that's an expense also of cruelty to animals that are left there and not cared for.
Right, and still it's important to point out, and I know you'll agree with me on this, people like Jimmy, they look after horses very well. They look after their animals. I witnessed it myself, you know. So we always have to be balanced to it.
We have to be balanced with it, and there's always a small minority in everything. Yep. And it's the minority that will come to the fore, because any cruelty to any animal is too much.
Yeah.
Any life, death, lost on the road is too much. You know. And again, it has to be sulky racing. There has to be a wider discussion on it. How is going to be made safer? Like, I'm sure. Is it
difficult to have those wide discussions, Michael?
I think it is. But like I've been very vocal on the sulky racing, and again, it's not pinpointed at them, like. But I've never, like, and I'm sure. Their representations for the travelling community that do the sulky racing on the roads, nobody has ever come to me and asked me to sit down and talk to me and have a discussion with me either, like, you know what I mean, and to Brennan, like, you know.
And you'd be willing to?
Oh, I'd be willing to talk to him, because we need it, friend. We need to, like, we can't just decide that we want to ban sulky racing and not involve what we want to hear their side of it. But there has to be regulation, there has to be animal welfare taken into account. There's a lot that has to be taken into account with it, friend.
All right, okay. Loads coming in on this, particularly where the e-scooters are concerned. And one person asking for your opinion on this. Do you think that the e-scooters should be allowed in the cycle lanes?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because the cycle. If you're cycling a bike, you are cycling in a straight path. E-scooters tend to swerve. You know. Swerve left, swerve right, even when they're on the footpaths, that's what they do.
Yes.
If they're going to be on the cycle lanes and you have a number of cyclists as well on the cycle lane, I think the speed they do, you're going to have more action and traffic trouble, like, you know what I mean. I think it's something that has to go to a big discussion on it. Where is the safest place for e-scooters? It's not on the roads because of the speeds they can do. It's not on the cycle lanes, which I understand. But whether we incorporate, like, cycle lanes are very big. If you know what I mean.
Yes.
They are pretty wide. That maybe there can be a wider cycle lane put in that has the scooters as well. But I think, Fran, we need to regulate around the scooters first before we decide where they should be.
Right. We're getting people getting in touch with us from so many villages and towns saying that they have similar experiences to your own, Michael. So it needs to be addressed.
It needs to be addressed. And as I said, it was the biggest thing that came out of Christmas for me was the telephone calls in the night time, the narrow escapes people had with the scooters, and we're only maybe 2 weeks into Christmas when all these things were flowing in, like, you know what I mean.
Okay, well, and the majority of people getting in touch with us as well, saying policing is the secret here.
Policing is the secret, and I just want to reiterate this again: the amount of people that come to me about speeding, let it be in rural roads, towns, villages, housing estates. It is enormous, the amount of speeding that's been done, and like I would hate to think that somebody has brought to my attention about the speeding in a certain area, and if there's an accident or there's a child knocked down in the housing estate, I would be devastated myself to say that I never was known for doing anything about it.
Okay, but you have a motion on the way.
Well, we have a motion coming in next month, yeah.
Right.
And Franny, if you don't mind, if there's just one thing I could mention in relation to a community awareness evening that we're having in the Federal Community Hall next Tuesday night, the 18th of February, is 7:30 to 9 o'clock. And it's run in conjunction with Seesaw and the Federal and Cllr Community Council. So it's a meeting about awareness, hope and recovery. And the guest speakers are John Leahy, the Drug Addiction Officer at the HSE, Joe Leahy, founder of Seesaw Awareness Group, which is a great foundation, and there's a local lady, Tracy Lawrence, speaking on her personal journey to recovery as well. And it's free to all the community, and the events, as I said, is focused on education, awareness and hope and positive conversation all around the mental health, addiction, recovery. Everyone is welcome, and I'd love to see a large crowd. And you don't have to be from Federal. If you would like to come and you're from an outside village and don't want identity to be known or something like that, but you need a bit of help or get support or to find out about this meeting, we would be great to see you all there.
All right, Michael, thanks for coming into us today. Thank you. Good morning to you. That's Councillor Michael Michael with us this morning. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Did you know that if you place batteries, vapes and electronics in bins or skips, it can create a fire hazard? Recycle them safely at approved return points and protect your home and our collectors. Visit weireland.ie. A message from Ryan Brothers Environmental Services.
We all bring a different kind of energy to our home energy upgrades. That will it not cost a fortune energy? That's why SSE Electricity brings up to €37,000 in SEAI grants deducted up front. And as Ireland's leading one-stop shop, we manage it all, and we can help you access the Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme too. Book your free consultation today. SSE Electricity, a different kind of energy. Grants offered are provided by the Government of Ireland through the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Terms and conditions apply to the Home Energy Upgrade Loan.
Only 100% Irish beef and the tastiest cheese. The Burger King Double Cheeseburger, now only €3.30 at Burger King. Pop into a participating restaurant today.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, continuing our conversation around the dangers facing pedestrians in our towns and villages, Betty was in touch and she joins me now. Betty, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran. Good morning.
And good to talk to you. Will you tell me about your late husband's collision with a bicycle in Nina, Betty?
Well, I will indeed. This happened now about 18 or 19 years ago. On the pavement in Pearse Street, my husband was standing on the pavement talking to someone, and a young fella on a mountain bike slammed the tyre of the bike, slammed into the back of my husband's leg. And the kid kept going, you get such a fright, he just swung around him and got away. But he had a very swollen leg, and we were going on holiday just shortly afterwards, and he had a lot of pain in his leg. So day we came back, he went straight to the GP in Clonmel, and she sent him straight to the hospital. She said, I think you have a deep vein thrombosis there, clot in the leg.
God.
And he was given an injection of heparin straight away and put on warfarin, and that is the routine procedure. But, Fran, he, coming up to Christmas, it was just coming up, it was Christmas, New Year. It was actually Christmas Eve. Went to the doctor again, and she said, you're a sick man. He was really ill. And she said, if you go into hospital, they won't do anything. Come in the day after Stephen's Day, which he did. And he was admitted to hospital. And in that time, he was passing blood in his pee. So he's bleeding like from his bladder or kidneys. And bleeding isn't uncommon with being on an anticoagulant,
yes, of course.
Blood thinner.
Yeah.
But, then he was sent to Limerick and scanned and all that. And they found this big shadow, and I was called in. I was woken up out of my sleep early one morning, and nurse rang me, come in. The consultant wanted to see me, and saw me. When you're called into a room with a table and two couple of chairs, you're not being called in for a chat.
For sure.
So, so he said, well, look, from the scans, we think your husband has quite a big tumour on his kidney, and now I'll have to refer him to the urologist, the consultant who deals with that. And he did in due course, and I was thinking about my husband. He came home. He was home from hospital about 2 weeks before he saw the urologist. And in the meantime, he'd put on 9 pounds in weight, and he looked really well, and he was back to himself. My husband incidentally had curly hair, but when he was ill, the hair went straight. Never saw that happen to anyone before. But the hair was back curly, and he was full of bounce and full of energy. So I said to the consultant, look, could that be a hematoma? Could, hematoma would he have had a bleed in there, and would it show up as a shadow? And he said that's possible, but they were going for this tumour. Well, I think watching his progress and how as soon as he came off the warfarin, and my husband himself said, I feel so much better. Anyway, to cut to the chase, he said, look, okay, I'll leave it. We'll give him 6 weeks, and if it's a hematoma, we'll know. And sure, in 6 weeks' time, we went back and had him scanned again, and it had almost gone away. It had gone down. But, I mean, they were heading down the road for removing his kidney because they were kind of convinced he had a tumour on it. But it shows just the fallout from what is...
And I was just going to ask you about that, Betty. I mean, what happened subsequently around his kidney and stuff? Did that all relate to the collision with the mountain bike?
Well, you see, it indirectly. Putting him on blood thinners.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Because of the bang of the bicycle, a clot formed.
Yeah.
Because of the clot, he had to take blood thinners.
Yeah.
Because of the blood thinners, he had a bleed close to his kidney, a big bleed in the inside. But scanning that, it looked like a tumour. So it caused an effect all the way down the road. One thing which was all directly connected with the initial bang in the back of the leg.
And, you made the point to Leanne yourself, we don't talk about this very much. We don't hear about the injuries that people get in these situations.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same with road. We hear all the statistics about road death.
Yeah.
But we never get the figures on the people who are left in wheelchairs and left in, with disabilities for life as a result of some of these crashes and road, so many accidents. I mean, the reason I just put the text in was because this isn't a new thing. Kids were cycling on pavements, I mean, going way back in town. And possibly parents would say, well, I don't want you out on the road, it's too dangerous in the street if you cycle on the footpath. Not really thinking of what the damage they can do to other people.
And your husband was an example of that.
Yeah. Yes, he was. And I mean, all that he spent, it was over, he was in hospital. He was in hospital for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
With this, yeah.
And I know you won't mention names to me, but was anybody brought to book about this, Betty?
No, sure, the young fella got away.
Did he? Okay.
He did, yes. Yes, he did. He was only a young lad.
And when you hear about e-scooters now and scramblers and electric bikes, obviously these can go an awful lot faster than the bicycles years ago. Are you afraid of the?
Fran, I am. Fran, you walk. When you're out walking, they come up behind you on the pavement.
Yeah.
Now I live out off the Limerick Road now, but Fran, you're walking in there, minding your own business, and one of these little things will come up behind you, and you don't hear it, and they'll shoot past you, and it's only if you saw a dog poo on the pavement, and suddenly you stepped out,
yeah,
you could get walloped and knocked down,
and that can be life changing. Particularly for older people, let's face it, Betty.
Well, sure, of course they can, Fran. I mean, there's schools flying along. Sure, it's very easy to knock someone over. Yeah. But with impact, if you're going fast and you slam into them, sure, you're going to throw them flat on the pavement. And people have been knocked. And driving, Fran, you're coming up and maybe you're taking a left turn. You have your indicator on, you're going around the corner, and just maybe one will shoot straight past you. And they do, and they come out and, they go out on the pedestrian crossings, and they're coming up, looking ahead, and they don't want to break their speed. So you and I, we were out, when you come to the pedestrian crossing, you look right and left and right again, because that's the side of the road that traffic is coming. And you cross if she's all right. Rarely now will people stand and check that the car has seen them. They just walk out, often with earphones and that, and they're not tuned into anything around them.
Yeah, I've seen it myself lately. A young lady walked straight out on one of these zebra crossings while looking at her phone.
Yes,
She
they
didn't
do,
check to see had I stopped for her or anything. You know, it was.
They don't check, you see. They don't, Fran. And at the side, on the right-hand side, there you're driving, where the windscreen and the door meet, the panel that comes down there.
Yes, the blind spot. Is that it, Betty?
That blind spot, and if somebody steps onto the crossing coming from the right there's an instant when you could miss them. You have to be
absolutely. I know, yeah.
And now Nina Town, the amount of crossings we have them everywhere. And when you're changing lanes, you come down, it's all one-way traffic. You have to be so careful because people don't indicate. They just, a lot of people, well, I won't say some people.
Are things much worse on the roads now, Betty, do you think? Are they more dangerous, more careless, more?
I think they are. I was coming up for, and a lot of people are careful. I picked that up. But I was coming up from South Tipp yesterday evening now. It was getting dusk. And on the narrow road, you're coming through Borla and going on to Holy Cross there. And a car went flying past me. And it didn't put on an indicator that I'd spot him. He was going to go. But he was going so fast, Fran. He hadn't a hope of slowing down, If anything unexpected happened ahead of him, he would be slamming into it. He wouldn't have. I mean, the faster you're going, the longer it's going to take you to stop the car.
Well, that's for sure. One of our lists, Frank, was on to us, I think, to say that for every pedestrian that would be killed, 10 people are seriously injured. It's an interesting stat, isn't it?
There are a lot of serious injuries and spinal injuries, all sorts of injuries that leave people really incapacitated. You see from amputations to head injuries to people who are left in a coma, who, on life support. It's right across the spectrum, the level of injury. Yeah. And, I compare countries. I know my granddaughter, when she was about 8, she had to take her cycling test in Germany. She started cycling to school in the city on her own at 8. But she took her cycling test.
A cycling test, Betty?
Yeah.
Wow.
But sure, children, you give them a bicycle and once they learn to balance, they have to know how to give signals and hand signals and how to manage a bicycle, where they can cycle and can't, how to cross the road safely. You can't let an 8-year-old off and say, off you go now, you'll be fine. And she did. She said, I cycled all around the track. She had different things, I suppose, different road signs and that to observe. And she said, I went round, and she says, when I came back to the man, he said, I want you to go round again. And so she went round again, and she got her cycling test, yes.
And Councillor Brennan was talking about, parents buying these scooters for particularly younger children. I mean, who all of a sudden they're up on this powerful thing that's going at up to 25, 30k per hour, Have parents a certain responsibility here, do you think, Betty?
Of course they have. And I will loosely say this. You have two kind of parents. You have the parents who wrap their children in cotton wool, who drive them to the school gate, who collect them from the school gate, who are afraid to let the children develop independence. Yeah, there is that reluctance with some. And then you have other parents who appear to just let them off. And the best to look to them, that they're not vigilant, they're not checking what they're watching on the phones, and then you have a lot of problems, So no two parents are alike, aren't they, Fran? Everyone is rare.
And what's the ideal, Betty? Is there something in between? I mean, we don't want to cosset them too much, but still we have to make sure they're safe and well.
Yes, I appreciate these days it must be very difficult in the world we live in for parents. I mean, when we were growing up, we were away, we were out cycling on the roads, we went into houses, neighbours and we didn't have the problems they have today, are enormous. How to navigate life, how to bring them up that they know how to keep safe without frightening the life out of them, you know, Fran.
It's a difficult one. And, you know, parents get a fair old rap here on programmes like this, but, I mean, it is difficult to parent nowadays, is it not, Betty?
It is. Oh, yeah. It is. I'd be the first to acknowledge that. It is very difficult. It is to bring up children that they don't get caught up with you know, stuff on the phone, that they inappropriate stuff, and then they'll have, you know, they can't process it, and they can't, and it makes them very disturbed. It has to. Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Betty. Well, lovely to talk to you today, and lovely to remember your late husband as well, Betty. And thanks for coming on with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Fran.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Fran. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Dot. Bye-bye. That's Betty. We'll take a break. Back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, it was lovely to hear from an old friend of mine over the weekend. One of our finest musicians, Frank McNamara, was on, and he was telling me that he will be in the Thurles area tomorrow. And he's tuning pianos in the area. He has a couple of places left now. He's pretty busy, but he has a couple of slots left if you want a piano tuned in the Thurles area. Now, you couldn't have a better person to do it, as you can imagine, and who knows, he might even play a tune or two for you as well. I think it's €150 for the tuning, and his number is 087 249 4926. So that's 087 249 4926, and Leanne will have that here at base if you don't have a pen handy there for that. But that's the great Frank McNamara, available in the Thurles area tomorrow. And also, just to mention to you that due to a bereavement, tonight's performance of By the Bog of Cats by the Father Matthew Players has been cancelled as a mark of respect, and all ticket holders will be accommodated at another performance. And if you have not already been contacted, if you reach out to the original point of booking, you will be sorted out where that is concerned. You can call 086 358 3719 or contact the Friary Pharmacy in Cashel. All right, Councillor Jim Ryan has taken to social media to voice his frustration over the lack of progress on overcrowding at UHL, calling on local TDs to step up and take action. Councillor Jim Ryan joins me now. Good morning to you, Jim.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
And thanks for coming on with us. You're making the point that before the last general election, Jim, that Deputies Larry O'Mara and Kelly committed to ensure that Nina Hospital will be upgraded to take the pressure from UHL.
That's correct, Fran. As you know, I was one of the candidates for the last general election, and during a number of debates throughout the campaign, there was one held in Nina, in the Arts Centre in Nina, and it was packed. And one of the questions that was put to all the candidates, including myself, was what would we do to prevent and stop the overcrowding in UHL, and would we support the upgrading of Nina Hospital to a level 3 hospital? All the candidates, including the three that were elected, Deputy Lowry, Deputy Ryan O'Mara and Deputy Alan Kelly, gave a commitment that they would do everything to ensure that the hospital in Nina will be upgraded and the emergency department reopened. Now, a year and a half later, Fran, from the general election, all three have failed miserably to deliver on those promises, to the extent that I saw a social media post by Deputy Willie O'Dea from Limerick, who stated that he has been told by the HSE that both the HSE and the government are looking to secure a site close to the UHL hospital in Limerick to build a new medical facility. So, unfortunately...
Well, that was one of the HICRA recommendations that the Minister is going ahead with.
But one of the other recommendations, there were three recommendations, and one of the other recommendations was to open a new Tier 3 level hospital in the Midwest region, which could have included Nina. And unfortunately, our three TDs failed miserably, with the result now that the TDs in Limerick...
But have they really...
Obviously, the TDs in Limerick have more influence over the Minister and the HSE, where they have now secured confirmation that the recommendation by HICWA to open a medical facility and extend the hospital in Limerick is now what they're going to do. So at the expense, once again, of North Tipperary.
Are you being fair about Nina, though? I mean, there's new outpatient day case services there. The community nursing unit now is in action. Now, new acute beds planned for there as well. Primary care and outpatient expansion. I mean, a lot has been happening with Nina Hospital, Jim.
Of course I'm being fair, and that proves my point that Nina is a wonderful facility. It has the potential, it has the amazing staff, it has the facilities, it's ideally located in our Tipperary, but what's missing is the emergency department. And if the emergency department was reopened in Nina Hospital, by the way, that emergency department was there until Deputy Lowry and Fianna Gael at the time decided to close it. If we could reopen that emergency department in Nina, it would mean patients in North Tipperary would not have to travel to Limerick to emergency department. They could remain in Nina, in North Tipperary, which would reduce the level of the waiting list, the stress, the pressure, and people waiting on chairs and trolleys in UHL. It would reduce that, and it would be an ideal situation. But unfortunately, as I said, our 3 TDs in North Tipperary, 2 which are from Nina, have failed miserably.
What about what's been happening, in fairness, in UHL in recent times? I mean, that new 96-bed inpatient block just opened there relatively recently. There's planning permission secured for another 96-bed block. And there are what you mentioned there, what the Minister has decided on from the HICWA recommendations as well. So there is a lot happening now. I know it's slower than most people would like, but it is happening.
Well, Fran, tell that to the 118 people that were on trolleys in UHL there the day before yesterday. So what good was the 96 beds that were opened there recently when you had 118 people on trolleys in corridors of UHL? I mean, those figures are very, very similar to the figures before the 96-bed unit was opened. So it has made absolutely no difference. The only hope we have is to have a second emergency department in the Midwest region. And Nina was the ideal location to do that. And for some reason, our TDs in North Tipperary, the HSC, the Minister for Health and the government have once again overlooked North Tipperary and decided that we're going to open up a new facility in Limerick when previous openings of new facilities in UHL have failed miserably. And Frank, can I also say as well, like people may say, well, easy for me to talk, I'm coming from experience. A close family member of mine was on a trolley for a day and a half in UHL. I was there for all that time. It was degrading. There was a sense of fear. It was humiliating, and downright dangerous, where you had patients, young and old, male and female, on trolleys stuffed like sardines, Fran, along a very narrow corridor, where hardly any space for staff members to get around, for family members to get around. And it's just not good enough. And, where my loved one was positioned in the trolley, it was right against the double doors. So every time the double doors swung open, it banged against the trolley. I mean, it's shocking to see what's going on. And the Minister, the HSC and our TDs, particularly the 2 government TDs here in North Tipperary, they're going to have to step up to the mark. It's just not good enough having 118 people after a 96-bed unit being unopened on trolleys on a corridor in UHL Hospital Limerick. It's scandalous, Fran, to be honest with you. And all you need to do is go on social media, and there's more and more videos being posted by family members who have told stressful stories of what their loved ones are going through, sitting on chairs, sitting in trolleys in UHL. It's just not good enough. And before I go any further, Fran, I want to state categorically here, there's no fault of the staff. And I want to compliment them and thank them for everything that they're doing, because they are working in extreme, stressful, tiring situations on a daily basis. And, it's very unfair treatment on them as well, and they're doing everything they can. But unfortunately, despite the money being invested in UHL, it's not working for them.
Do you accept, though, Jim, that some progress has been made?
Well, Fran, how can you say some progress has been made when there was 118 people on a trolley in UHL corridor the day before yesterday? There was 102 yesterday. There was 118 the day before. Can you tell, in your viewpoint, is that progress, Fran?
Well, plans there, 306 new beds at UHL by 2029, extra beds at Ennis, Nina, St. John's, more expected by up to 2040. The HSE exploring those new sites that we made reference to there, relocating services and stuff. There is stuff happening. I mean, it's not fast enough by a long shot, Jim, but, you have to acknowledge some progress.
Well, Fran, I'm acknowledging the people that are going through stressful situations in UHL. I'm one representing them, okay? And 118 people on trolleys in a corridor, narrow corridors in UHL, is not good enough. And despite everything you're after saying there in defence of the HSE and our TDs and the government, I don't buy it. And you may say whatever you want, Fran, in relation to what might happen or may happen in the future. But what has happened over the last number of years is, despite the millions being invested in UHL, the situation has not improved. And the facts are there. That's not just my opinion, Fran. Well, these are facts that are...
Yeah, but Jim, you know what my job here is to put to you an alternative argument. You know, I'm not standing up for the HSE here, but I'm putting the figures to you, because I've had to listen to the people here with horror stories of what happened at UHL, so I'm only too aware of that. But are you turning this into some sort of political football, Jim, to have a go at the three TDs?
Look, Fran, you can call it whatever you want, but I suppose I'm on here on the basis that I had a very close loved one on a trolley for a day and a half. I saw it firsthand, the stress that caused to her. It caused the people around her, the staff. And, you know, we had TDs up on the door promising this, promising that before the general election. Nothing has improved. And when I saw those figures on the trolleys, I did what you said, Fran. I waited for the 96-bed unit to be reopened. I said to myself, wait until that's opened a few months, see what difference would it make. And when I saw those figures being released over the last number of days, I said to myself, it hasn't worked. And, you know, I feel personally the only way you're going to bring down the trolley numbers in UHL is to reopen the emergency department in Nina Hospital. That is the only way you're going to take patients from North Tipperary away from Limerick. It'll mean the ambulance service will be freed up, because they wouldn't have to travel as far by going to Nina. It would free them up and help their situation. But common sense doesn't seem to prevail. And for some reason, despite having a magnificent hospital in Nina, the government and the HSE and our TDs seem to have some issue with reopening the emergency department there.
Well, I'm sure our TDs wouldn't have an issue with reopening.
Well, why can't they do it? Two of them are in government, hold very vital positions. They get promises before...
And call on them now. Call on them. What are you calling on them now to do right now, Jim?
Well, sure, at this stage, Fran, you know, the reason I've come on is because I saw Deputy Willie O'D put on a social media post saying that he has secured confirmation from the HSC that a new facility is going to be provided in UHL under the 3 recommendations that were given. Yeah,
well, he might be claiming that, but in fairness, the Minister came out following the HICRA report and made those decisions and spoke about the Limerick Surgical Hub and the like, Jim. So, you know...
Who influenced her, Fran?
Well, I presume she was influenced by the HICRA report, was she not?
And you presume she was influenced by local TDs as well, I presume?
Well, so you would give the credit to the likes of Willie, would you?
Sure, if Willie... Well, Fran, we seem to be moving away, turning this into a political debate without the other people defending themselves. I'm just giving you the facts that are here in front of me.
Well, we gave the 3 TDs an opportunity to... we emailed them yesterday and we put it to them what your comments and what your feelings are. We haven't heard back from them on that yet, but as soon as I do, I'll certainly make that clear.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sure they'll come on once I'm off the air, so they won't have to get into a debate with myself, take the easy way out. But I'm coming on, Fran, as a frustrated person whose loved one was one of those patients that was on a trolley for quite a lengthy period of time. I saw it firsthand, the dangers, the stress, the fear in people's eyes in those corridors. And it's not something that I wish for anyone, including anyone from those TD families or from the HSC, to have to go through. Yeah, well, but unfortunately, they are going through it on a daily basis. The numbers are going up. And, you know, why a facility like Nina cannot be upgraded to a level 3 hospital with an emergency department is beyond me. We're not talking about building a new hospital. We're just asking for money to be invested, extra staff to be taken on, and the emergency department reopened. It's not rocket science. And instead the HSC now want to go off and buy a site, costing whatever it's going to cost to buy the site, build a new facility in an area that has already a proven track record of failing to reduce the trolley numbers in UHL. Just does not make any sense in my eyes. And you can call it whatever you want to call it, Fran. That's my opinion. Whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, I'm entitled to my opinion. I've seen it firsthand. I know from talking to other people who are on trolleys. I know from looking at social media posts from family members who have been on chairs and trolleys. I'm taking their word for it. I'm not going to take the word of officials from the HSE or the department who have never been on a trolley in their life.
All right, Jim.
This situation needs to happen. It needs to change, Fran, and I think it's time we need to get tough. Simple as that.
All right, Jim. Good to talk to you today. Thanks for your time. Thank you. Good morning to you. It's Cllr Jim Ryan speaking to us there. News and information's coming up.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the second hour of Tipp Today. 1800 938 007. That free phone number if you want to speak to Leanne. Now, colour-conscious casting and colour-blind casting in historical dramas, often described as rewriting history, involve casting actors of colour in roles traditionally or historically portrayed by white individuals. Now, this trend in the entertainment industry, seen in shows like Bridgerton and Anne Boleyn, aims to increase diversity and representation, but it has sparked significant debate regarding historical accuracy and the purpose of historical fiction. Well, Sarah Harte, a fiction writer and Irish Examiner columnist, has been writing about this, and she joins me now. Good morning to you, Sarah.
Hello, how are you?
And thanks very much indeed for your time this morning. Just for listeners who aren't familiar with the debate, Sarah, when did this treatment of period drama begin?
Well, it kind of crept in gradually. I mean, personally, the first time I ever noticed it really was with Bridgerton, which I'm a big fan of, actually, where you had, I mean, Bridgerton purports to be set in early 19th century England.
Yeah.
And at that time, historically, obviously there was no censuses, so the statistics are not precise. But broadly speaking, it's believed that in early 19th century Britain, you had between 10,000 and 20,000 black people. Conditions were not good for them. They certainly weren't rich and they weren't powerful and they weren't mixing with the aristocracy. And that's what you see in Bridgerton. So that's the first time personally that I really noticed it. I think it predates that, to be honest, but there is maybe a growing trend. Another show that's on at the moment, slightly different, but I haven't actually personally watched this, would be Amadeus.
Yes.
I think it's on Sky Atlantic. The reason I know about this was I actually don't have Sky Atlantic. It's that a friend mentioned to me two reasons they didn't like it. One was that they just thought the production was quite flat as compared to the movie that we all remember from years ago. And secondly, they said that they found it slightly discordant or jarring that Mozart was played by a mixed race actor. Mozart was famously, well, you know, according to the portraits we have of him, sort of pale and sickly. Yeah. So, you know, that's another example. So I think it is kind of the trend of colourblind casting is definitely gaining momentum.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Bridgerton, I'm just watching it at the moment, and it's a sumptuous production. I mean, to watch it, it's just beautifully done. I can't fully get into it. And the thing that strikes me is that you're right about some of the lead characters being people of colour, but you also see the servants, many of them people of colour as well. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I'm watching it currently. Like I was watching it last night. I think, you know, it's fun, it's fresh. It was created by Rhonda Shimes, and she's a real powerhouse. She owns the media production company Shondaland. I mean, she's one of the most powerful people in television in America. She would also have created many shows that we know, like Grey's Anatomy probably would be another famous one. And I think I admire her hugely, and I think she has a really fresh, fun take on things. She's a very interesting perspective on race and colourblind casting. Her perspective is that when she was asked about this with regard to Bridgerton, and she was saying, look, if I as a black woman can see myself in 19th century Britain, well, that's a good thing to me. She also really strenuously rejects the term diversity, which I think is interesting. She wants to decenter race entirely. So as far as she's concerned, you know, she casts actors regardless of race, and she doesn't want race to be at the centre of that decision. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, you're right. She doesn't like the term diversity, but it's all about diversity, surely, Sarah.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, diversity, equality and inclusion has been in the dock for a long time now, in some ways illegitimately, in other ways legitimately. Like, there's been a massive pushback against what's called DEI in corporate life. And I think the current White House is part of that. You could say that diversity, equality and inclusion, aka DEI, is, at the centre, particularly in America, of the culture wars. I mean, I'm all personally for DEI, but I do think that, sometimes there is a criticism of it that, and I'd say Shonda Rhimes, I don't know Shonda Rhimes, unfortunately. I'd love to know Shonda Rhimes. But I would say, if I had to take a wild guess, that, when she talks about decentering race, she may possibly think about DEI, that it's quite performative. And definitely that would have been a criticism of DEI in corporate circles, that lip service was being paid to diversity and inclusion and equality rather than real diversity,
Elon Musk has been weighing in on all kinds of arguments lately, Sarah, and now he's taking aim at the filmmaker Christopher Nolan. What's that all about?
Well, I mean, that's that question, we could be here all morning. We could be here a couple of days answering what Elon Musk is all about. I mean, Elon Musk is a man who likes to shape public discourse. For such a successful man, he seems to have a lot of time in his hands. He's a big fan of controversial topics. But to speak to the particular question you asked me, Christopher Nolan apparently has an upcoming film which people are really looking forward to, called The Odyssey. And in that, Helen of Troy, that mythological figure, the face that launched 1,000 ships, she will be depicted. And it's not confirmed yet, but there are rumours that the black actress Lupita Nyong'o might be potentially cast as Helen of Troy. So a bit of a row kicked off on Twitter last week. Musk was supporting those who thought that was a bad casting decision. To be honest with you, I had a look and some of the comments were extremely racist. And then other people were saying that it was absolute nonsense. Who cares who plays, a mythological figure?
Yeah, it's interesting. For some viewers, this type of content can unintentionally erase the history of exclusion and oppression faced by ethnic minorities. How do you see that particular tension?
Well, that's kind of why I wrote the article. I mean, I wrote the article for a couple of reasons, because, I saw the Elon Musk row on Twitter, but also that week the BBC had commissioned an internal review into their practices, and the internal review was published last week, and they cautioned against giving viewers inauthentic experiences. They weren't anti-diversity at all, but basically what they said was, I'm going to actually quote from the report here, "In depicting an anachronistic historical world in which people of colour can rise to the top of society, as scientists, artists, courtiers and lords of the realm, there may be the unintended consequence of erasing the past exclusion and oppression of ethnic minorities and breeding complacency about their former opportunities." So I thought that was quite interesting. Essentially what they're saying is, and many other well-known historians have commented on this, is that, colourblind casting has its major advantages, but a potential massive disadvantage is that you erase racism. So if you look at Bridgerton, let's say you're a teenager, your average teenager who's 15, just to take a random age, and you're watching that show, and you don't think possibly too deeply about history. You could come away from that show thinking, well, I don't really get why people say that, racism is a big deal, because look at that show, half the cast were doing well as, Queen Charlotte or Lady Danbury. So I think that tension is interesting. It's something that's hard to get right. But I think if anyone is in any doubt about racism, last week was the week that this row kicked off on Twitter. So Twitter obviously is a cesspit. Then the BBC published their report. But I mean, look at the White House. They issued a cartoon where the Obamas were depicted as monkeys, Yeah. So, I mean, that says it all as far as racism is concerned.
Would we be better to leave history alone and build diversity and inclusion into the projects of today and the future, Sarah, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I feel uncomfortable answering that. I mean, like when I was writing the article, I did multiple drafts. I feel like I have a right as a journalist or a person to explore a complicated topic, but I'm always kind of wary as a white woman. You know, I prefer to look to see what black historians or black creators are saying. So, answering the question that way, Rhonda Shimes thinks very strongly, as we said already, that, a casting should be colourblind. And with regard to Bridgerton, she had two critics. I mean, not her personally, but the notion of colourblind casting. One was a black British historian who's very well known in the UK. He's called Stephen I. Martin.
Yes.
And he specialises in black British history and literature. And he works with places like Tate Modern, Tate Britain. And his job is essentially to bring diversity to history. So that's his actual job. But he had issues with Bridgerton because he said it was a fantasy. Because at the time it said slavery was central to the British economy.
Yeah.
Like at that time, Britain was the largest trader in slavery on the planet. And similarly, there's a Yale professor called Marlene Eldot, and she said something very similar. She said that she's against basically colourblind inclusion because she thinks it's unrooted in historical reality. And she's also worried about it glossing over slavery.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think we're looking at reworkings of the likes of Dickens and Jane Austen and the like? Do you think that that's on the cards with the success of something like Bridgerton?
Well, yeah, Bridgerton is, I think it's in the top 10 Netflix shows ever.
Huge.
Like
Huge, yeah.
It's like insane. Like I can't remember, is it 100 million, 200 million people have viewed it? I do think we're looking at reworkings of stuff like that. And, as I said, I'm wary about kind of coming down hard on one side. I have no problem with that. I think it's fresh. I just think we have to figure out a way, I don't know what that way is, we have to figure out a way to present shows but to be careful about not glossing over racism. I think that's important, that we don't give a false version of history to young people. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it. I didn't put it in the article. I'm nowhere near being a grandmother, or at least I hope I'm not. But I was kind of imagining having a grandchild in years to come and thinking about, say, let's say in 20 years, and thinking about them, I don't know, watching, a documentary at school or something with reconstructions. Would I want that grandchild to think that Bertie Ahern or Eamon de Valera were black? No. If they were played by a black actor. Why would I not want that? Well, I think that it would send the message that in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s that Ireland was a racially inclusive society when the very opposite was the case. I think that is problematic.
That's a very good point indeed. And also it's important to keep in mind that I presume Bridgerton doesn't make any claims to be historically accurate anyway. I mean, it is, as you say, a fantasy.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And actually, Rhonda Shimes was very careful about that. I can't remember the exact wording, but they're like, if you go back a couple of series, I haven't seen it in this current series now. It probably was the first series, but there was a really explicit disclaimer speaking to that and saying that this is not based on fact. It was something fancier than that, but she was careful about that. And as I said earlier, while I think it's very important to teach accurate history to children, I really like her approach, and I don't care if there were black people in a reproduction of Jane Austen, but I just think you have to find that balance. Because if you look at America at the moment, there's about 65 states, including Florida, where in Florida it's called the Stop the Woke Act, and they're now not teaching children in the American equivalent of primary school about racism and all those inequalities, which are hard baked into an American society and still, as we know. But they're not teaching that because they fear it will distress white children. And I personally think that's madness. So I think it's really problematic. So I think you have to find a balance,
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you probably would argue with me that we haven't come a long way, but I have a particular fondness, and it's kind of I'm not sure if I should admit it, to the writing of Somerset Maugham. And I go back over his stories time and time again. But the racism that is just so blatant in it, I mean, there's no way you'd write anything near that nowadays, Sarah. So, in one way, we have come a long way.
Well, yeah, in some ways we are. I mean, like, if you write something now, anyway, if there's anything even vaguely problematic, you're writing, say you're getting a publishing deal, it'll be sent to a sensitivity read. And that's a good thing. I think what's a bad thing, to go back to what I said about what's called whitewashing. So, you know, whitewashing is what's happening in Florida, where you have children not being taught history. I think it was Alabama, I remember reading several years ago, that they had taken Huckleberry Finn, which, you know, has very racist language in it. Yeah. Although the writer, I don't think was a racist man. I think he was a very enlightened man. Yeah. Mark Twain was a very enlightened man. I think what would be problematic, though, is taking that text now, and which they've done in some states, and changing, erasing some of the racial slurs as they're seen now, I think because people need to know what it was like at the time. I mean, you can give kids trigger warnings and say, I used to be against trigger warnings. I actually now think they have a value,
Do you think so? Yeah. And what they did with, I mean, my great company when I was a child was the writings of Enid Blyton, and to see what they tried to do with her stuff, which I thought was kind of harmless and of its time, Sarah.
Well, it's pretty racist and sexist when you look back. I mean, I was a big Enid Blyton fan. I remember my mother didn't like me reading Enid Blyton because I think she understood that it was racist and sexist, etc. I loved it. I mean, children always love the things that their parents don't want them to read. So I read every Enid Blyton book going. I think looking back, it was, but it was of its time. I mean, if you look at Agatha Christie.
Yeah, for sure.
Agatha Christie, same thing, I just don't understand why we can't take a work and say, well, this was written at this time. This was the social strata, our era, our culture that the author came from. There is merit in this work. But if we look back with the lens of today, we see how problematic the racism or sexism was, and we can discuss that. I think surely as an evolved, civilized society, we should aim for that, rather than sticking our fingers in our ears and covering our eyes and saying, well, it wasn't like that back then, kids, I just don't think that's healthy, and I don't think it allows for nuanced dialogue. And I would also question as to whether you can tackle racism in society if you do that, if you pretend that it's not there, if you pretend it wasn't there.
Well, it was a very interesting piece, and I'm sure it will generate a lot of discussion on the programme. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for your time this morning. Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning to you. And that's Sarah Harte there, who is a writer and a columnist as well with the Examiner and other newspapers as well. We'll take a break. Back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Yeah, listener says, my favourite films are true stories, friend. Does this mean we will have no more true stories? Absolute nonsense. I don't think that's the case. I think in certain instances this is going to come up, I would imagine. I haven't made my mind up on Bridgerton. I'm sort of wading through it at the moment. I'm not sure if I'm enjoying it. That's all right. One thing I am not enjoying, though, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is the new Tom Vaughan Lawler one on a Sunday night. What is it called? Sacred Vows. I think it's absolutely appalling, and I'm a huge fan of his, and he's the only saving grace from the thing, playing the part of the priest. But what are they at? I have no idea what is going on there whatsoever. Love to hear your view on that. What do you reckon about Sacred Vows on Sunday nights on RTE? Orla Hanratty is a youth panellist with Webwise and will be participating in a special event at the Department of Justice, Home Affairs and Migration today. She's from the Presentation School in Clonmel. She's among 100 students from across Ireland taking part in this event. Will you tell me, Orla, what it is you're going to be doing in Dublin?
So I will be going to the National Safer Internet Day event in the Department of Justice. So young people, educators, policymakers and tech experts will all come together to talk about how we can keep children and teenagers safe in an online world shaped by AI. So we're going to be discussing loads of things, and I'll be talking on a panel along with journalist Roisin Ingle, a clinical senior psychologist from from CAMS and a doctor from UCD as well. And we'll be discussing Gen AI like in everyday lives. So generative AI, the most common one people will see in their day-to-day lives would be large language models, things like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. So that's when you go into one of these AI chatbots and you ask them a question or you give them a prompt, and they'll use technology to create responses for you. So they'll take resources from all over the internet and they'll use what they've been told by people using them previously and give you a response. They're not actually thinking, they don't actually understand what they're giving you.
They're taking from all these
they're
different
taking from all these things
places,
and they're using a prediction of, if I say the word dog, what's the most likely thing to come after it.
Do you use this on a daily basis?
Yeah, generative AI is being used by teenagers, especially like almost daily. Obviously not everybody, but the large majority. People are using it for schoolwork all over the place. It's so common to see somebody, say, an after-school study, just copying an answer straight into their copy from an AI chatbot. A lot of people are using it to replace search engines. Like instead of Google, they're just going straight to an AI because the information can be accessed much faster. They're using it for like writing emails, presentations, making schedules. There's loads of trends on TikTok and Instagram and stuff using AI, asking people to create an AI picture of them doing something. It's used unintentionally as well. So many of the apps that we're using every day, like Spotify, have AI algorithms that you wouldn't even realise. And then people use it as well for advice, social scenarios, things they'd be embarrassed to tell somebody. They go to an AI for a judgment free.
And Ola, everything you're saying to me there sounds all very positive. What are the problems though?
The biggest one for me anyways, and one that's at the forefront of everyone's minds, is the environmental impact of AI. AI is using a huge amount of water. It's developing so quickly we can't keep up with how unsustainable it is. A big problem as well at the moment is deep fake and very realistic AI images and videos. It's become impossible to tell what is AI or what is not. It's very dangerous. People can be put into situations like very compromising images and videos, and they can be used to create dangerous like rhetorics as well, like fake videos of somebody doing something that they're actually like. We see it on social media all the time, even politicians.
That's a huge controversy at the moment, particularly where X is concerned. Are you also, well, maybe not you, but certainly I would be concerned that you'd lose certain skills, for example, that AI would do for you that you might be normally doing for yourself, whether it's grammatical stuff or whether it's mathematics or whatever, you know?
Yeah, so that's another big problem as well. Loads of professionals and educators are worried about the younger generations losing critical thinking skills or never developing them in the first place, just over relying on AI. And a big worry as well for young people, which isn't really talked about that much, is jobs being replaced. Yeah. Like a lot of people now are like going into college courses, or they don't know what to put on their CAO because they're not sure if that job will be there in 4 years.
Do you think that, again, people my age or parents, do you think we misunderstand what AI is all about?
I think adults are maybe, and obviously I can't speak for everyone, but taking AI just at face value, thinking, oh yeah, teenagers are just using it to cheat in their schoolwork, or they don't understand the risks. I think a big focus at the moment, the government especially, have gone straight to protection. They're trying to ban AI, they're trying to remove it from take away our access to it. Whereas I think that the most pragmatic thing to do would be to educate people about it, make it mandatory on our SPHE curriculums, the same way that internet safety is. AI safety and how to use AI, definitely we need so much more education around it. Young people want clear rules and guidance about AI. We want to know, am I allowed to use it in school? What are the rules? Where are my boundaries? We want skills to know how to evaluate AI content as well, how to tell if something is AI or real. People want an understanding of AI as well. People don't know how it works. Some people could think that AI is thinking it's going to take over our jobs. People don't realise how it works. And we want as well, another big thing is support for future careers in an AI world and information about what the job sector is going to look like in 10 years.
Everything that you've spoken to me about there, is that what you're going to be making reference to today for Internet Day Ambassador Programme? Is that what you'll be doing?
Yeah, so we'll be discussing with, as I said, all these policymakers, educators, young people and tech experts. things, anything from online safety to the future of digital education, and hopefully they'll be inspired then to change policies and take things like that into consideration when making decisions about AI and the law surrounding it.
Right, but at least you're having your voice heard,
Yeah,
which is what's so important.
It's a brilliant opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm passionate about my future and everyone's future. I would like to make a difference, or even think about making a difference, rather than just sitting there worrying about it. It's better to do something than just worry. So I'm on the Webwise Youth Advisory Panel. So we meet around once a month, and then we've online things as well. And we talk, we fill in surveys, we advise and cooperate with organisations like Commission a Man, and advise them when they're making policies and they're making resources for schools or for young people.
Well, we wish you the very best, Orla, and thanks for dropping into us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now to be joined now by Orla McKeown and Heather Bain, both transition year students from the Presentation Secondary School in Clonmel as well. Good morning to you both. Heather, can I go to you first of all? Will you tell me about this event that's happening this morning?
This event is about teaching older people about giving them awareness on AI, how to stay safe, smart and in control of it. It's about helping people to understand the rapidly growing influence of AI. Tools like ChatGPT, Snapchat, MyAI, Gemini and other chat engines like that. While these tools can be brilliant for learning, creativity, language practice and getting quick explanations, they also come with a lot of risks.
All right. Well, good luck with teaching people like me all about this. Are you surprised at how little maybe older people know about this?
I feel like because it's advanced more in my generation, that we know more about it because we're kind of being brought up along with it now. We don't understand a lot of it, but it's there and a lot of people do use it. So it's more of, I feel like older people know about it, but they're not as they don't understand it as much as we would.
So we're making a presentation that we're going to present today in our school at 11:30. It's going to teach older, wiser learners about kind of just the risks involved in using AI and kind of just more about what AI chatbots is.
So who's welcome along to this particular event then, Orla?
Anyone is welcome to come join us at 11:30 to 12:30 in the PE hall. It's on for an hour.
So I'm Tras O'Loughlin. I'm a post-primary teacher at Presentation Secondary School in Clonmel. I teach home economics, but I have a keen interest in technology and I work in support services for other teachers with IJA, and I tutor in AI. And I'm very keen and passionate to share the technological advances with the students. So we set up in conjunction with Microsoft Dreamspace Ambassadors, and we've Orla as a past Dreamspace ambassador who has now gone on to be part of the national panel with Webwise, the youth panel.
And you must be very proud of her. Indeed, it's all moving so fast, Trasa, it's almost impossible to keep up with, isn't it?
It is breakneck speed.
Yeah.
Everything changes. Sam Altman comes out with the new announcement. There's a lot of egos at play here. One moment it's Google is flying ahead. The next moment it is OpenAI. It is huge, and for some people they still do not even recognise what the logos mean and the brands are. Yet you open your WhatsApp today and down the bottom right hand corner you're going to have a little purple circle down there that is your Meta AI tool ready to go. I'm sure even here with your socials here you find you have AI responses flying in. And for some people, it's a wonderful tool to help.
Well, I think it's wonderful. We use it for research and I find it invaluable at this point. I don't know how we got on without it. But a lot of people out there are at sea, a bit afraid of it even. So I'm just, the younger people here with us, they can help so much where that's concerned, can't they?
They can help so much because they'll encourage you to be the human in the room, and the critical oversight with the human eye is imperative here, because AI will always try to please you. It will always have a positive tone. It will give Fran Curry what he wants to hear. But you must You must review the output. You must look at it. You must fact check it, because it is a generative language model. It is trained on language, on data that exists, and that data can be biased. That data can hallucinate, because it will generate what you are wanting to hear.
So what Orla said earlier on, that notion of critical thinking, I mean, we still must have critical thinking, maybe more so than ever. More so than ever. Yeah.
This is so important. It's so important that you're critical in the prompt that you create. So up to now, you would
the prompt. That's what you ask of.
That's what
AI,
you ask. So up
yeah.
to this point, someone would say to you, just Google it.
Yes.
Okay. So we need to move from that to learn how to prompt or prompt engineer. So you might ask something very simple like, I'm going to Cork, help me find some parking. Okay, you haven't told it what part of Cork or what street you want to do, what time of day, what parking might be open. You must give it parameters, and when you give parameters, you will then get a really good response. We had a lot of fun one time where we asked it about Michael Collins, and I know the Michael Collins most Irish people would think about, but this Gen AI told us about Michael Collins, who was involved in the Civil War on the moon. So and the moon landing.
Right. So being specific, and learning how to do that properly, I would imagine, is hugely important. The event that's happening with yourselves today, people welcome along.
People are welcome along.
You don't have to be associated with the school particularly.
You don't. We're just keen to share the knowledge. Our Dream Space ambassadors want to share with older people who maybe are unsure about AI, some of their knowledge around chatbots and how to use them wisely.
And it was lovely to meet those pupils from the Pres in Clonmel yesterday. We want to wish them the very, very best, particularly this morning. If you want to make your way along to the Pres and you want to find out a little bit more about AI, you'll be made welcome there as well. Fiona was on to say, and this is making reference to my conversation with Sarah Harte, and she says, can you imagine the uproar if a white man was cast to play Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela? I would imagine there would be a little controversy about it, all right, Fiona. But of course, we've seen examples in the past of American Indians being played by white actors, for example, and Europeans playing the parts of Oriental people, and blackface performances with the Christy Minstrels and all of that. Even depictions of Jesus with those European features, which could not have been the case. For example, as well. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a discussion that's going to go on. Now, following the piece about AI there, my friend Bernie Goldbach was on to say the Computers in Education Conference in Limerick is happening on the last Saturday in February, and it covers ethical and sustainable usage of AI in Irish schools. And Bernie was telling me that he's going along to that himself, so fair play. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007. Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tipptoday@tippfm.com.
Well, Frank is in Thurles, and he sent me this. Make what you will of this. He said it's the beast system spoken about by St. John the Apostle in his Revelation, the last book of the Holy Bible. The infrastructure is being constructed apace around us, the data centres, which will be the nerve centre of the prison. And he caused all, great and small, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hands or in their foreheads that no man could buy nor sell, save he had that mark or the number of his name, says Frank. I'll have to think about that, Frank, but I guess, are you making comparison to that piece by St. John the Apostle to where we are now, and are you referencing AI and the data centres and all of that? Is that the point, I wonder, that you're making there? Thank you for that, Frank, on 083 311 3311. Now, last week, businessman Austin Broderick spoke to us on the programme, and he had issues around parking and traffic, particularly in the Thurles area. Huge reaction on the show to that. Regular contributor to the show over many years, Peter Ryan, is with me now. Good morning to you, Peter.
Morning, Frank. How are you? Frank, I was just thinking of Frank there. Jesus, that's heavy stuff he was on about.
I'll tell you now, fair play. Very learned listeners out there, I can tell you, Peter. Biblical scholars and all of that sort of thing.
They're going to have to come down that peg or two for the next few minutes, I think. But
Not a bit of it. What are you seeing out there, Peter?
Traffic had, a lot of different things, the roads on it, all the rest of it. But as far as parking, traffic, Clonmel, Clonmel's a nightmare. Getting parked in Clonmel, even though there's very little happening in the centre of Clonmel, it's just a nightmare to get parking. Plus, it's very expensive. And, if you look at Middleton has free parking, and the town is booming. And look at Clonmel, they'll charge you for everything, and there's nothing happening in the town, but it's just a kind of a motorway in there. That's the way I look at it. And as far as, we'll say, my pet hate in Clonmel when I go in is I have a van and loading bays. The loading bays are always full, not by vans or people loading. The only thing they're loading in the loading bays, from what I can see, is coffee. And it's cars just pull in, park up, somebody will go in for the coffee, and the other person will be on their phone, you've been up beside them, they'll be looking at the phone as if they couldn't even see you, even though your van nearly gone in their window. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed, Fran.
What they would probably say to you about, the notion of free parking, they need that revenue to pay for all the business that the local authority looks after, Peter. I mean, that revenue is badly needed because they're not properly funded from central coffers. So.
Yeah, but that revenue is also badly needed in Middleton. And Middleton is surviving, and it's doing very well. And it's a surviving town because they're not charging for parking. So you go into Clonmel trying to find a parking space, then try to find a machine that's normally not working or something wrong with it, and to come back to your car. If you could go into Clonmel, park for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour or so, pop in, do your few bits and pieces and move on, I think to be a much better system. And to find the money someplace else.
And you think it would benefit the town hugely?
Big time. Look, park in Clonmel, we need a multi-storey car park. That goes without saying. Every time that we were anywhere close to that, someone objected. Down where the Clonmel Arms is, that was meant to be a hotel, bars, restaurants, multi-storey. It was all great, but obviously in the country we have, everyone will object to everything anyway, so that was stopped. But we need some place to park in Clonmel, and I think they should get rid of the street charging.
And what about the car parks that are there, Peter? I must say I rarely find any problem getting parking in the car parks.
The car parks are fine, provided you're in maybe the middle of the day of a Tuesday or Monday or Wednesday or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you go to town on the busy times, the car parks are a nightmare.
Are they? They're full. They're full, I guess.
They're full, and there's no place. You're inside driving around like an idiot, and you still probably have to drive back out and go off and park somewhere else. But if you go in the middle of a wet day like today, maybe there'll be plenty of parking spaces. But the minute there's some little bit of pressure on, they're full.
It's not just Clonmel, though. I know you're probably familiar with Dungarvan, and people tell us all the time about how wonderful Dungarvan is and how well it's doing. And it is a lovely town indeed. But parking is a nightmare there. Absolute nightmare.
I agree. I was actually in Dungarvan there at the weekend now, and I was parked on where I shouldn't be. I thought so. I'd only be about 10 or 15 minutes, but I ended up being nearly 3/4 of an hour, and I was fairly worried that when I come back, my car would be clamped or something would be gone. But it is a nightmare in there. I agree. And parking in a lot of places, not only Clonmel, parking in a lot of places is a nightmare. And even in Dungarvan, there's some brilliant restaurants, all the rest of it, but you have to park.
I know.
Sometimes nearly half a mile away from them.
Absolutely, and that's what I found now. I like Dungarvan, as you say, lovely restaurants and bars there and the like as well. Do we have to rethink the whole business of parking, do you think? I mean, have we to, as you say, look at options like whether it's high-rise or whatever?
Big time.
Yeah.
And we need to bring like when you go to Cork, I don't be in Cork very often now because I get a pain in my back every time somebody suggests going shopping. So
you know, you put that out there now, Peter. You know that, don't you?
I could feel the pain in my back come on about 3 weeks before that annual trip.
Well, I go to Cork quite a bit, and again, parking is a pure joke down there. Driving around these, even the high-rise ones, driving around, as you say, like a fool looking for a place to park.
Yeah, well, parking, you see, yeah. Like, when you go into all these, even the high-rise ones, especially like at Dublin Airport, places like that, God, you want to be a really good driver to fit the car in.
I know.
The space they give you.
Absolutely. And it's so tight when you're driving to the next floor and that sort of thing.
Oh, it is frightening, actually, yeah. And you can see so many marks on the walls and everything. So obviously there's an awful lot of cars or something after scraping off of them. And then when you get there, you have to leave everyone out before you park because you would not be able to open the doors to get out.
We hear from people with disability all the time as well then how difficult that is just to disembark from the car. Like, you know.
That has to be a complete nightmare altogether. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, we need to get our parking. There's simple things in life that we should be able to sort out, and parking should be one of them. Like, you know.
And do you have something against people? Do you have something against people who stop off for a cup of coffee in particular? What have you got against us who stop for coffee?
They really wind me up. I'd say anytime they see me in town, they'll all pull in to plug out me.
Why are you not a coffee person yourself, Peter? No.
Well, I would not park in a loading bay with my car to go in and get a cup of tea no more. I think it's the height of ignorance. It's people should obey. There's not very many of them. There's only about 3, I think, or some 3 or 4 in Clonmel in the whole area. So it's the one thing that people that have to drop off loads here and there, that it's the one perk that's been owning a van and being a delivery person in the like of town, and it should not be used for people just going for their coffee.
And able-bodied people, I mean, you know, we should be able to walk from a car park to, you know, instead of wanting to pull up directly outside of a shop or something. You know?
Of course we should. And like I say, that's why if we had a bit of more parking, maybe even out a tiny bit, and park up there and walk in, wouldn't do anyone any harm whatsoever, like, you know.
Yeah.
But no, they will come in and they will go into the loading bays, and I guarantee you that some of them now having their coffee in a loading bay listening to us fans. So I just tell them, get out of it. You know?
Get out of it, indeed.
Get out of it.
Yeah, and I was talking to Michael Brennan, the councillor, earlier on, and we were talking about several different things, but we were talking about e-scooters. Are you coming across any of those on the roads?
I tell you, I am come across a lot of them, a lot of problems with them. First of all, the high-vis jack is not one, the lights, the speed, they are really a real threat on the road, you know, and they're dangerous. But it's the ones on the footpaths that I actually have the biggest problem with. I was down in Cllr there in the October bank holiday, and I stepped into a shop and I stepped back out after a few minutes, and I swear to God, Fran, I was only a second away from probably being a cripple for the rest of my life.
With an e-scooter, Peter,
with an e-scooter coming down the footpath.
My God.
And I just stepped there, and I just kind of pulled back, and he just grazed my 2 knees. He'd have hit me in the side.
Are you serious?
Wow. Oh yeah, couldn't have been forward or backwards. It was straight in the side. I got dumped. Right, I rolled at him. If I caught him, I'd stay for the rest of the day. I'd be talking to you from prison now because I'd killed a little fecker. But you know, it was frightening, and I think that's a big thing on footpaths. People stepping out.
See, this is no good to you if you're hit, but it's illegal. It's absolutely illegal for them to be on footpaths.
Of course it is, and that it shouldn't be happening. But you see, they're using them on that day later on. I was walking around Cllr, and there was people. They were. You could see what they were about. They were all dropping off little parcels here and there and moving on high speed. I
see what you're saying. Yeah, all right.
Yes, yeah, and everything was illegal about the whole setup. But you know, if I go out on the road with my van without tax for a couple of days, they'll either take it off of me or they'll give me 3 penalty points and €80 fine.
So it needs to be policed, Peter. Is that it?
It needs to be policed big time. Yeah, big time. It's something, and there's a lot of things that are bringing danger into the roads. Electric cars are another major problem.
What, the silence of them, is it?
Yes, yeah. Yes. There should be some way of letting people know that there's that size of motor coming within 20, 30, 40 yards of you, like, you know.
I thought there were some plans to do something about that, but obviously not.
Yeah, well, we spoke about something a few years ago about safety with cars and all the rest of it, and we brought up touch screens and different things. Now I believe the like of Volkswagen, they're getting rid of all touch screens. It's going back to something, to the old familiar knobs or something, and which is a good thing. Like cars are computers and touch screens and all this. It takes your concentration off of where you should be looking. In the old-fashioned way, we knew press 1 and you have radio or something, and press 2 and you had something else. But now you're pressing this up and down, the next thing didn't work, and you're looking down, you're losing concentration.
It's like a laptop on the dashboard, isn't it?
It's like a laptop.
Peter, I must leave it there. I'll leave you go in for your coffee. Don't park in a loading zone. When. Good luck, Peter. Good luck. Bye-bye. Peter Ryan speaking to us there.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tipp Today. A listener says, parking is a nightmare in Thurles, Fran. I don't think we will ever have free parking in our towns, but maybe a more reasonable cost would be a better option. $1.20 per hour in some towns, 50 cents in others. It's a mess. It's contributed to shop closures in the town of Thurles, says one of our listeners. Fran, tell your listeners to come to Carrick. Everybody just parks wherever they want. Half the people don't even know what double yellow lines are for. Thank you, it says. Well, I'm a very frequent visitor to Carrick. I haven't seen people abandoning cars there now, in fairness. But my crib about Carrick, and I love Carrick, and I spend quite a bit of time there, particularly in the Sunnyside Cafe. But my issue is that the parking meters aren't working half the time, and it's a bit of a nuisance then, because you wonder, will somebody come along and give you a ticket? Hello to Mick Kenny, who's tuned our way in Birmingham this morning. Hello, Mick, and I'm glad you're enjoying the show as well. Today is Safer Internet Day 2026, and this year's theme is AI Aware, Safe, Smart and in Control. Safer Internet Day will explore ways to empower children and young people with the critical thinking and digital literacy skills they need to evaluate content and to recognise bias and protect their privacy and make responsible decisions. Now, Mick Bourne is the CEO of Hotline.ie, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Mick.
Hello, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, and good to talk to you today. Could you start by telling us a bit about Hotline.ie and the kind of work you do, Mick?
So we're the Irish Internet Hotline. We're a not-for-profit that deals mainly with a platform where people can go to report illegal or harmful material that they see online. We're part of the Safer Internet Centre, which is ourselves, the ISPCC, Childline and WebWise and the National Parents Council. So our consortium makes up covers all the angles. So you can report online content to us. You can get help at Childline. The National Parents Council run a parents helpline, and of course webwise.ie is where you can go to get all the information you need for parents, teachers, children. They can all get the information they need there, you know.
You're up and running a good few years at this point, Mick. You must have seen a huge evolution of online stuff. I mean, it's really it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is incredible. And like, you know, I suppose the connected world that we all dreamed about back in 1999 has turned into some sort of a consumer and like a chronic consumerism monster that just feeds us content day after day after day, you know, ostensibly for us to be connected, but in actual fact it's all about those companies gathering data on us to sell us ads and to feed the consumer machine that they have created, you know. And we do our best, really, to make people understand that. And I suppose, you know, for years those companies were self-regulating, and those days are gone now. And we see the Digital Services Act coming in there in Europe, and it's, you know, people are starting to realise, especially parents, that it's not a good thing for their kids to be online. You know, there's huge opportunity costs involved, that their kids are being made to feel anxious and have increased anxiety as a result of using these things for too much. And those companies don't care about your kids, and you know, they have these recommender algorithms. They have an addictive nature. They put tools in place that do not take kids into consideration, you know, and parents have had enough of it, and teachers have had enough of it, and the government have enough of it, and you know, hopefully now we'll see changes in the near future.
Well, hopefully so. Your description is so powerful there, Mick, but I wonder, is the genie out of the bottle, do you think, where this is concerned? I mean, how do you contain this monster as you described it yourself?
Well, I look, you know, the other side of that coin is that the internet is hugely useful. We all use it every day in our lives, and AI is coming in there now. It's like having an all-knowing buddy sitting beside you all day, every day. You know, so there's huge benefits to it for parents, for children, for business, for everything. However, there are negatives that we need to deal with, and that's what organisations like mine are there for. We're there to help. We're there to. It's what things like Safer Internet Day is about today. You know, and this particular Safer Internet Day is all about AI, especially generative AI, and trying to make kids AI aware so that they're in control. You know, that they use it safely, that they're smart about it, they're cynical about it, that they critically think what they're giving this AI, and more importantly, that they critically think what they're getting back from the AI, you know?
Yeah, a lot of us adults need to keep that in mind as well, Mick. What are the common types of complaints you're getting?
Well, we are on the dark side, and I don't want to be accused of scaremongering, really. You know, we live on the dark side. We work very closely with Garda Síochána, and really, if you're dealing with the hotline or you're dealing with the guards, you're way down the river. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and so, like, the harms that are out there are multitudinal. Like, there's just so many. And I can talk to you about sexual extortion, for example. That's a huge problem for young people, especially young men. I can talk to you about intimate image abuse, you know, where kids will fall into the trap of sharing intimate image, whether it's taken by themselves or whether they've created an AI. These are things I could talk to you all day, Fran. That's the problem. I really could talk to you all day, and we don't have the time for that right now. My advice really to parents is, look, you wouldn't let your child out to run around on the main street in Clonmel. Why would you let them out online unsupervised or without some assistance? So communicating with your kids is just ultra important, you know. Absolutely,
but I think those of us as well who might feel a bit outside of the loop of this, Mick, we need to educate ourselves so that we can police what our young people are doing to some degree.
Exactly, and you know, you use the word police there, which I would never use when I consider about parents and kids having a kind of a relationship around the use of connected technologies in the house, you know. No more than anything else, there's a need for rules to be in place. There's a need for... Kids need parenting. Do you know what I mean? They love routine. They love being told they can't do something, even though that's counterintuitive. Like having an agreement with your kid, having conversations with them, and above all else, absolutely not panicking if something goes wrong. You know, the worst thing you could do is take the phone off your child. Now, having said that, I mean, we can talk about the craziness of giving a 7-year-old child a 24/7 connected device, smartphone, you know, and parents really need to cop on and really need to think about what they're doing, giving their child at 7 years of age, giving them a smartphone. And I know that I'll hear all about that, you know, we're under pressure, parents are under pressure these days. You know, little Johnny has a smartphone, my little Johnny has to have a smartphone. Well, your little Johnny doesn't have to have a smartphone. The other Johnny might have Gucci shoes. Doesn't mean that your child needs Gucci shoes. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and well said, because I don't think that's been said clearly enough.
Look, it's bananas. Given a child under, I would argue, personally, under 16, a 24/7 connected, 5G connected mobile device is bananas. And parents really need to cop on, right? Because when you give your child something that's connected to the internet 24/7, you are giving the internet connection to your child 24/7. And that is, in my humble opinion, irresponsible. And the design of these tools now are not with children in mind. And all of the stuff, all of these platforms that they're using, all of the tools that they're using, none of them have been put through safety assessments. None of them for children. So if you, as a parent, are looking at the internet and you see something that surprises you, imagine what your 7-year-old is going to make of that. You know, pornography, gore, extreme violence. All of these things are available 24/7. And if your child is connected to the internet, that's what they're looking at. And you really need to be asking yourself if that's what you want your child looking at. And there is a grassroots movement out there to delay the giving of phones to children. You know, I think it's called smartphonefreechildhood.ie, something like that. If you Google that, you'll find it. And they're parents who are coming together in a collective action to basically delay the giving of smartphones to their kids. And I see CyberSafe Kids have a thing out there this morning that includes that some astronomical number of kids under 10 who have smartphone devices that are designed for adults. You wouldn't give your child a car. You wouldn't give them a gun. So why would you be giving them this harmful, like it is absolutely harmful to a child? Do you know what I mean?
Well said, and it needs to be said as strongly as that, and thank you for that. I know you're under pressure for time today, so can I just ask you, I mean, in terms of the people listening today, at what point should they make contact with hotline.ie, do you think, Meg?
Look, we deal with everything that's illegal and everything that's harmful. So if they see something that they're not comfortable with or they're not happy about, then go to www.hotline.ie and click the report button there, and off you go. Fill it in, and we'll get it taken down. Now, if it's illegal or harmful. Now, the other thing that's very important to remember is intimate image abuse, which is a big problem in Ireland at the moment, and that can be, you know, under Coco's law, children can sometimes share intimate images of their friends or their girlfriends or their boyfriends, and if you do that, if you share that or you threaten to share it, you can be in serious trouble with the guards. And I really would advise kids to be very, very careful about that.
Mick, thanks for your time today. Thank you and good morning.
No problem.
To you.
Thanks,
Thank you. Bye-bye to you now. That's Mick Moran there of hotline.ie, speaking to us quite openly, quite plainly. That he didn't mince his words, as you heard there, and it's about time that was said, so fair play to him. 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, it's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Yeah, a listener was on, following on that chat with McMorran there of hotline.ie, a listener on to say there's many things you can do to protect your child on a smartphone. They can be monitored, screen time, tracking, etc. I think children that start secondary school need a phone these days for safety reasons. So I suppose that's a pretty valid point as well. But I think, in fairness, Mick's point was, kids of 7 and 8 are kids who are under 10, do they really need full 5G access to the internet? And I think most people would say, I don't think so.
Legal discussion on Tipp today is brought to you in association with Lynch Solicitors Clonmel, on the web at lynchsolicitors.ie and at divorceinereland.com.
Rosemary Lynch is with me in studio. Good morning to you, Rosemary.
Good morning.
Good to see you today. You're going to talk to us about farming, I suppose, and succession largely, is it?
Yeah, I think that everyone really has concerns around what's the best way to get their assets to their loved ones, whether that's during their lifetime or on death. And in a farming context, there thankfully is some reliefs available that might not necessarily be available to the average person.
Right. This is tax relief, is it?
Tax relief,
Okay.
yeah. So there's the two certainties, death and taxes, but one certainty I found is that people aren't necessarily very aware of the tax position on death or during lifetime. So there is one that frequently actually comes up outside of the farming type query, but in a general transfer, which is, a parent wants to transfer a house that they have to their child. They come in, they say, look, I'm not going to charge them any money, so it's a voluntary transfer. And I say to them, okay, well, unless we can find a relief available to you, you will be taxed as if you're selling it for value, and that's called capital gains tax. All right, and the hint there is in the name. It's supposed to be a tax on gains. So just to, I suppose, put it into context. So if you bought a property for 100,000, you sell it for 200,000, or you transfer it to your child when the market value of it is 200,000, even if you don't receive that 200,000. Revenue will say that you've made a gain of 100,000, all right, and you're taxed at 33%. Now, there are a few bits and pieces you can take out of that, thankfully, even on a standard one, right? So, obviously, when you buy a property, there's things like stamp duty payable, there's a solicitor involved, there's all those types of things. You can take out those costs, and you can also take out the costs of transfer at the time. So now, the today's transfer.
But it still will be a substantial sum.
Still a substantial sum unless you can find a relief available. Now, there is an annual exemption, but it's just over 1,200, so it doesn't have a big consequence. But there are some general exemptions available to, or reliefs available to, the non-farmer. So a spousal transfer, for example. So a lot of the time spouses are just trying to, I suppose, tidy up their portfolio. I think I've spoken to you before about trying to mitigate disturbance on death, and one way to do that is to put property into joint names. All right, so then it passes by survivorship rather than having to take out a grant of probate. You can also, as a parent, transfer a site to your child, provided it doesn't exceed an acre, and that they intend to build on it, and that it's not more than 500,000, which you'd hope that there's nowhere in Ireland that would reach that limit.
So that's while you're alive you can do that, is that it? Yeah. Okay, right.
There's also principal private residence relief, so that's where it's your sole and main residence. There's a CGT exemption on that. And then I suppose there's another one that people aren't necessarily aware of, which is there's a small relief available to property acquired between 2011 and 2014. All right. So you're hoping when somebody comes into you and they're trying, their best to forward plan or to do something nice for their children, that you can try and fit them under one of those. All right. Now, as I said, farmers, there are, or to be honest, business owners as well, have certain reliefs available. All right. And one on this gain tax relief is called retirement relief. Okay. So it's, funnily enough, you don't actually have to retire to avail of the relief. All right. So it's a relief, I suppose, based on two things really, and it's what's the relationship to the person you're trying to transfer your asset to. Okay, so if it's a child, niece and nephew working in the business or on the farm, you can transfer up to 3 million worth of farm assets or business assets.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry, if you're 70 plus. Under 70, because there's obviously, they're trying to make it so that there's a transfer earlier rather than leaving it to the last minute.
Will get involved, yes.
So actually under 70, it's 10 million. All right, so that's quite a good one to be aware of. And again, it's always about future planning, forward planning. You want to try and get, as the person giving the benefit to someone else, you don't really want to be penalised if you're giving it for less than value or for no value. And if it's somebody who's not related to you, you can also, give a certain amount without that tax catching you.
Is that just farming, or did you mention businesses would have something
as well?
Similar? Businesses as well.
Yeah,
okay.
Business and farming. Yeah, and then it's $750 if you are under 70. And then it's 500,000 if you are over. So that's kind of a good one to know about. How it's been, based on the queries I've been receiving, how sometimes it can get a bit sticky, right, is that you have to have used the business or the farm for 10 years, so actively farmed it basically. And sometimes actually when people are trying to tidy up their portfolio, as I just mentioned, by putting 2 people on title, if there's a non-farmer on title, that can actually cause an issue. So in that circumstance, you just need to come in and get the advice early, and then there might need to be an additional transfer before you can actually transfer it onto the child.
God, if there was ever an argument to getting early advice, this is it. I mean, you could miss out on enormous sums of money.
Absolutely, and it really is. A bog standard succession plan that we would do. Obviously, there's a good bit in it, but usually you can, say, all right, well, I can do all of this legal work within, the space of 6 months or however long it is. With the farming one, you tend to say actually that there's so many conditions and time periods to take account of, that you might actually see the solicitor or your tax advisor, and it might not actually all come to fruition for a period of 5 years or so, based on doing it in the right way.
Well, because it's so complex, is it?
Because
so many strands to it.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, just talking generally about tax, there's always, if there's a relief available on a tax, there's always things that you need to be aware of, like the conditions. You need to put yourself in the best possible position to actually avail of the relief. So, on some of the farming ones that the recipient can benefit from the relief, they need to have a green cert, or they need to have a green cert within a specified period of time. They have to be actively working on the farm for 50% of their working time. So when you have a farmer that doesn't have necessarily a successor that is a current farmer, there's conversations that need to be had, and there's some movement that actually needs to take place, rather than just saying, okay, Grant, I tick all these boxes. It's not always the way that they'll have somebody that will meet those.
And I presume over the years you would have seen people make mistakes where this is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a mistake, but one of the things that I've seen happen is that clients come to me and they say, my mother or father needs to avail of a nursing home. They made a transfer to me of farmland or of whatever land, but it was a year ago. All right. Now, sometimes you can't mitigate that against that. You never know when somebody may or may not need to avail of nursing home support. But if you've kind of done it early enough that that is a consideration in the future, bearing in mind that I was listening to I think it was a Chagas seminar podcast the other day, and they said that the average age of a farmer is 59 at the moment, and that there's only 6% of the farming population under 35. So there can be, even when you don't think you're at risk of it in the next 10 years, that's actually when you need to be getting that advice, so that you're aware of what the future risk might be. Because for the fair deal assessment, any assets transferred out on a voluntary basis within 5 years, it's a 5-year look back period, will be counted in the assessment. Okay, so again, that's the type of, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but potentially if there was more awareness earlier, it may not have occurred.
Yeah, this is telling me we have a small farm leased for 20 years, but have it willed to our adult children. Will they have to pay much tax where that is concerned? They don't farm.
Yeah, I mean
and a lease.
The lease can be good in a way, right? Because for the kids, what they really want to be, what they're concerned with isn't CGT. It's not that gain tax. It's inheritance tax. Okay, so each child. So the first thing you'd have to say is, I wonder what value that farm is, right? So each child has a tax-free threshold. It's a lifetime threshold. So again, have you given your children any gifts prior to that or during your lifetime, right? So let's say they haven't, okay? So that means that each child on death then comes into the equation with their full threshold of 400,000 each, all right? So depending on the number of children and the value of the farm, there may or may not be tax payable, all right? And that's without availing of any of the reliefs. Now, there is agricultural relief, and that again, just being clear, we've talked about gain tax, now we're on to gift tax, okay? And gifts are, during lifetime or on death. So agricultural relief can also be applied if needs be. So let's say it exceeds the 400,000 each. But that is a bit trickier. All right, so for your non-farming children, the assessment is, well, first of all, is it agricultural assets? Obviously, it's agricultural relief. It only applies to agricultural assets. The beneficiaries themselves, do they have 80% agricultural assets? Okay, and sometimes client goes to me, oh, geez, sure, they have a house now, but it's not. Okay, well, they have a house now, so that means they have no agricultural assets. It's after they inherit. All right, you look at the value of the agricultural asset, the value of their existing assets, and you tot up whether 80% of that is actually the agricultural holding. And then you have the active farmer, and the querist just said there, look, my kids don't farm. No. But they do allow you a period of time to get the green cert in, all right, or to spend the 50% of your working time, or, interestingly enough, to lease it to someone who actually meets those conditions. All right, so it doesn't actually have to be the individual themselves. They can lease it to someone who would pass that test.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then that the farm has to be farmed on a commercial basis, which means for profit. There's other bits and pieces in that, but the big question that I would be asking, if I was acting for those people, is how much is it worth? Is there ever going to be any potential liability there? And then look at the reliefs.
Yeah, somebody's saying, that's really putting you on the spot here now, but any advice for a child buying a small few acres from parents over 70, was working it very part-time for the last few years?
What was the question, sorry?
This person, so obviously the son or daughter, buying a small few acres from the parents who happen to be over 70. The person in question was working it part-time over the last few years. So I suppose they're wondering about the implications of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, these types of taxes only arise if you use the word purchase. So they only arise if you're not...
You're gifted.
Yes, exactly, in a gift scenario. So yeah, if they're actively farming it, there are reliefs available if it wasn't a purchase, i.e. it was a voluntary transfer. So, I kind of mentioned already that there's the two main taxes, the ones that people are most concerned about, right? Inheritance tax or gift tax, all right, is the one where you might look for agricultural relief if your child is farming that already. That should be available. And, as I said, if they don't have the green cert, they have a certain amount of time to get it in place, or they have the 50% rule. The other one, actually, that people, anytime I am dealing with first-time buyers, they're horrified by it, right? And it's stamp duty relief, all right? Or it's stamp duty. And the question I would ask your querist really would be, what age is your child? Right. Because if they're under 35, they can get a good discount on stamp duty. Remembering stamp duty is a tax which is applied to documents, to the deeds. So you can't actually transfer or complete the transfer without paying your stamp duty. All right. So on agricultural land, it's actually 7.5% of the value. So
is it indeed?
It's a whopper. Okay.
Wow.
So the reason I was asking, well, I wonder what age your kids are there, is that if they're under 35, they can avail of the young trained farmer relief, okay, which would actually bring that down to zero if they do, have all of the conditions in place. So very similar again, right? They have to have a green cert, or they have 3 years to put it in place. They have to have a business plan submitted to Teagasc. They have to be registered for income tax, all of that kind of stuff. And then they have to, the clawbacks always, you have to keep doing it for 5 years. There's also another one that I've come across recently, which is, so I want to transfer this parcel of farm to my child, but they're over 35. And then, so does that mean 7.5% is the stamp duty rate? But actually there's consanguinity relief, which is...
That's a big one.
it's a big one. And that reduces the stamp duty down to 1% as well, based on certain requirements. And again, you have the kind of active farmer test coming in there, and it has to be a lineal descendant. So there's a whole host really of considerations on both sides of the fence, because sometimes actually what I've found is that the parent, the farming parent, might be because farming is intergenerational, so they are particularly concerned with getting the land into the next generation's name. But sometimes the child doesn't have the funds for the stamp duty, and if they're not actively farming, they may not want to, take that on.
Yeah.
And
I can understand it too,
And they may just say, actually, if I don't have to pay stamp duty, why would I do it now? Why wouldn't I just wait till a death scenario? And then you'd have to bring back in the fair deal scheme, which is the farmer's main concern.
It's interesting, but I mean, it's in all our interests that farming would continue to thrive and flourish. It looks
Absolutely.
like that there's barriers put in the way some of the time. I mean, I know that there's some concessions and there's some, but there are barriers there as well, aren't there?
I think that I'm no big fan of taxes, but neither are my clients. But I think that there are more reliefs available to farmers and business owners than there are to other individuals in society. But the main conditions attached to any of the farming-based reliefs are that the recipient must be an active farmer, as much must be the donor, the giver. Okay, to avail of the reliefs. They don't want to, I suppose, they didn't want to introduce reliefs that you could say, okay, well, I, as the giver, am a farmer, but I can transfer it to whoever I like. They're trying to keep it in the farming context.
It's interesting. Is fair deal a biggie when you're talking to farmers?
Fair deal, to be honest, is quite a biggie to most clients, right? Because if you think about it, obviously, the farming client, their farm is their business, their farm is their life. Of course, they would prefer to see their child or whoever it is, niece or nephew, getting the farm versus potentially having a charge registered, and then whoever does get the farm on death has to sell some land to pay off
the debt.
But you also have like the average person who's, maybe inherited their family home from their parents, and they want to keep that family home in I suppose the family name. They don't want to put their child in a scenario whereby the asset may need to be sold to discharge the costs of fair deal. So it is a huge consideration, I would say, and it is one of the most frequently asked questions when I meet clients of a certain age, and it is very much, it is the reality. If you need to avail of a nursing home, if it's medically required, invariably you'll be going through the fair deal scheme.
It's interesting, Rosemary. So the main lesson from today is get advice and get it early.
Yeah. And it is one of those areas where, you know, you kind of need to even ask the clients what they eat for their breakfast, you know, because there's just so much going on. There's so many different reliefs. There's so many different conditions that you need to get the advice early, and you need to get all of your material prepared so that, you know, proper advice can be given.
Somebody saying, I'm planning on leasing the family farm from my brother who owns the land but doesn't farm it. He has at least to a local farmer for years and was entitled to tax relief on the rent he received. However, he will now have to pay tax on my rent as he is a brother. Has Rosemary ever come across that particular scenario before?
Well, there are tax reliefs available on long leases. I don't know why, if tax was not payable on the first, it would be payable on the second, but I suppose I'd have to see the lease.
All right, okay. Great to see you as always, Rosemary. If people want to make contact with you or your colleagues at Lynch's, is there a number that they can call?
052 61 24344.
All right, well done. Sometimes I say that to people and they forget the number. Thanks, Rosemary. Thanks very much indeed. We'll take a break, back with more.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, we're still getting queries in for Rosemary, and thank you for that. We will put them together and she will address them next time round. But thank you for your interest in that piece. Now, members of the Cllr Biogas Concern Committee have joined us on the show over recent months to share their objections to a biorenewables production facility in their area. Pat Shanahan joins me now from the committee. Good morning to you, Pat.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, and good to talk to you today. I presume you're in a happy mood today with that decision by Tipperary County Council to refuse planning permission, Pat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was very good. Now, in all fairness, we're very relieved. But I mean, I suppose we're under no illusion. This is probably just round one, really. But at least it was a good decision, well considered, and well documented by Tipperary County Council. Really, you know. So that's where we are at the moment, anyway.
So the feeling in the area is good indeed. All of you getting together, it proved to be very powerful, didn't it? All these submissions and the like, Pat.
Yeah, well, I suppose it just shows you the power of one, really. I mean, there was James Flanagan there, our chairperson. He raised the issue and he organised the first meetings, really, and it's really from there. Then it just grew very naturally, and it's really the evidencing the information that we needed, because you just really have to take an independent look and say whatever you're being told, you have to kind of really drill down, and then I suppose exactly the concerns and issues that we raised, well, that's reflected in the decision of Tipperary County Council. Really.
So my understanding, Pat, is that Roadstone has 4 weeks, what is it now, about 3 weeks from now, to appeal that decision to the on Commission.
Yeah, they have 4 weeks, yeah. I mean, like, the reality is that they've already spent money on so far in development, so I'd be surprised if they didn't appeal it. But I mean, I think from our review of it, really, that there's some fundamental issues that they despite the time that they were provided by Tipperary County Council, that they didn't address. They will have to address it with an Cushamp and all that. And even at that point, if it is overturned, well, we feel that, well, you know, if we have no other choice, that we would look at a judicial review based on the information that is there right now, really, with regard to what was proposed here in Cllr.
Right, so you will be ready, you and the committee will be ready to continue to fight this, Pat, is what you're saying to me, is that it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the key thing really, Fran, it's back to a lack of specific planning regulations and guidelines for the development, construction, maintenance and operation of AD plants and their associated operations. You know, like that's really the fundamental issue here, really.
I suppose you would be of the opinion, Pat, you and your committee, and indeed those who are concerned locally, that this should never have gotten to this.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the government they published the biomethane strategy, and they did it in the absence of proper planning regulations and guidelines. And I believe if there was any sort of specific forms of regulations, I mean, this site would never have been considered. And even then, the council looked at it in the context of COMO regulations. So COMO regulations are control of major accident hazards involving dangerous substances. So that would be under the control of the HSA, and that is the principal number one refusal on the document. That it found that the insufficient information had been provided to allow for a full and informed assessment of risks associated with development, particularly in the classification of the lower tier service. So as a result, the council concluded that it could not be satisfied. The proposal would not pose an unacceptable risk to the environment and surrounding land uses and the people who live here. So the other point then was the road safety. The council raised significant concerns, and they weren't able to deal with that to the satisfaction of the county council. And then the third point, which is very kind of broad, is the EIR, so the Environment Impact Assessment Report, which was prepared by Roadstone, was found to be statutorily deficient. In particular, so it was deficient for multiple reasons, but in particular, it failed to properly assess alternative suitable sites. And that alternative sites is that each site should be given a scoring. It was set out by the EPA, and if they had actually done that, well, I think straight away Cllr would have been discounted, because Cllr is the most seismic active site of its type in the country. So in the island of Ireland last year, the most seismic activity was in Cllr. There was more seismic activity off the coast of Donegal. Also, the largest explosion last year, picked up nationally. Our properties here, when they detonate, we feel it. It vibrates. So to put an LNG biogas facility on the same site, it's mind-boggling, really. Not to mention fly rock. So we would hope that Roadstone would reflect and not just automatically default to an appeal. But even if they do appeal, it doesn't change the fundamentals here.
Yeah, well, the council are very upfront when they said proposed development would endanger public safety by reason of traffic hazard or obstruction to road users. It's strong language, isn't it?
Yeah. There's just so many different facets and elements of this. There's even water quality that the council had said. They had set out a lot of concerns in the further information, and obviously those concerns haven't been addressed. But even just one of them alone was testing of on-site boreholes in the site revealed that the levels of nitrates in groundwater was already high on the site, and that the new ID plant would bring concentrated levels of nitrates and ammonia, which in the event of accidental discharge could prove fatal to children under 4. So, and we sit above the Ballyadams aquifer, there's no soil, there's no attenuations. They weren't going to concrete the whole or pave the whole quarry, and the potential was very, very high, and they just didn't have no clear mitigation around it, really. There was a lot of narrative, but not enough substantive content to reassure the community here and the county council. And then I suppose back to our key thing all along was that we just wanted open, honest town hall community engagement. We didn't want one-to-one where things can be said, and we wanted their professionals in a room and people who would advocate for us in terms of engineering and science to ask questions, and we just want clear, honest answers. So hopefully if they do progress it, that they will engage with the community, and we will want absolute reassurances around everything that we raised here. But on a positive thing, really, it did bring the community together, and sometimes you have to kind of potentially lose something to appreciate it. So we absolutely appreciate Clock Hill, the proposed National Heritage Area, the Shore, SAC, and the beautiful community that we live here in Clock. And
right,
that's really it.
Well, Pat, we will continue to follow the story, but thanks so much for coming on with us today, Pat. Thank you, and good morning to you.
Thank you, Fran. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's Pat Shanahan there of the Cllr Biogas Concern Committee. Now, during a recent show, our wellbeing expert, Muriel Cuddy, sparked a conversation because she spoke about facing tough days and explaining how she works to shift the narrative and focus on gratitude as a way to stay grounded and stay resilient. Well, Derek Russell has been a regular contributor to the show for many years, and he's been examining ways to stay positive on those tough days, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Derek.
Morning, Frank. Good morning, listeners.
It's good to talk to you today. Is that something you would have employed in the past, that notion of gratitude, Derek?
It is, and it's very easy to get bogged down in life and general day-to-day stuff, and we're all human. We will have bad days. There's nothing more sure of it. But it's to have the tools there of a bad day to, try and look at the positives more so than the negatives. And, for me, that might be only something like going down to the swimming pool, or, I'd have one or two people that I would ring, and when I'd ring them, they'd know I wouldn't be ringing them to see what the weather is like. They'd know that I might be feeling the best.
Yes.
And, that to me is, my coping mechanisms. It might seem very simple, but that's how I do. And, I suppose back 3 or 4 years ago, I was having a really bad week, and my son was in his school concert, and I went to it, and I seen him giving me the thumbs up off the stage that night, and that was as good as, winning money in a local draw or something.
It's a lovely way to put it. You must have very good friends that you would trust with your feelings, though, Derek, if you know what I mean.
Well, Fran, I have a lot of people that come to me for chats, and they trust me with what's going on in their everyday life. And, when they're not feeling the best, come on, we'll have a chat and, figure things out. And, I think there's probably not enough of that in Ireland. We're all gone mad into emailing and Snapchatting and whatever else. And whereas if we picked up the phone or we called to someone and sit down and have a cup of tea with them for half an hour or whatever, that can make somebody's day turn right around.
And playing into a previous conversation we had, is our attention span gone so narrow now that we almost can't allocate that kind of time to somebody anymore because we're too busy scrolling and the like, Derek?
Well, we are, yeah. And, I happen, a couple of hundred more people went up to the rag there to the tractor drive on Sunday morning. Yeah. And I don't know what it was, but I suppose it was the fact that it was 80% fellas at it. And everyone from a lad 18 to a fella 70 was saying the same thing, that. And it was a coming together of fellas. If you tried to organise that in a room and said that you were given 3 free pints and an a la carte dinner, you wouldn't get that amount of fellas to come to it.
Yeah.
Whereas the circumstances would just seem to be right up there the other day, and everyone was talking. And, that's, they were saying that fellas don't talk. Fellas talk, but it's in a different scene and whatever to the way women can associate with one another.
It's not necessarily about their feelings so much. I mean, it's about the match or where they're going or a car or a tractor or something.
And the most common thing up there was they were also cutting that fine tractor and the price of cattle, and everything was being discussed, and Tipperary were playing the night before and whatever, and that was being discussed. But I didn't see any of that standing on his own with no one to talk to up there.
That's a very good point. It's a very good point.
And if you go to the local mart or anything, there'll be nobody sitting on their own. They might be concentrating on what's going on, but there'll be also having a bit of a chat with the lad beside them as well.
And that's why the men's shed works so well, I suppose, Derek, as well, because it's similar to that, isn't it?
Oh, it is, and if you go back, you were saying there, we don't associate the way we used to. I remember one time we used to be in the youth club and all these things, and that was our way of meeting people. And it's if you go from October probably till the middle of February, there's no great amount of GA matches on or anything, and that's probably an outlet for a lot of people. And people say, I've got to hate the month of October and November and December, the dreary months and all that. But the fact that there's no coming togethers on much like that help things.
I'm sure it does. I'm reading a book at the moment, and quite a big feature of the book is, in the old days, going to the creamery. And obviously it was bringing the milk to the creamery. But the big thing was the social outlet of it.
Oh, without a doubt. And you know, I travel around with work there, and you'd see people, and you'd know they come into a shop there and they'll buy one maybe small bottle of mineral or something. But they come in to chat to the shop owner and see what's going on, or is there anyone dead or whatever. And, you know, like I'm of the age now that I still remember all the small shops around, and everyone had said, you know, I was up at the shop and I heard such a thing. But them shops aren't there to hear such a thing in anymore either. Like the world, Ireland has changed and the world has changed. And, you know, I heard my young fella say now that some of his friends, they can be in the same room as someone, but they'll Snapchat them rather than go and talk in the same room.
I know.
Like, it doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. And I mean, I know it's probably an age thing, but it can't be healthy, Derek. It just can't be healthy.
It's not healthy. And, you know, I see there, it's more and more people. One time if I had one or two people come and just, you know, for a chat, you know, I would loneliness more so than anything else, that would be as many. But there in a week now, that's gone to 5 or 6, and you'd know they're just coming. There's nothing really wrong in their lives. It's such only pure loneliness.
Actual loneliness, that they just don't have people to communicate with, Derek. Is that it?
Communicate and, you know, just talk about the normal thing, the normal everyday life thing. They're not there, you know, because there's problems or anything. It's just communication levels.
Isn't it awful? Isn't it awful?
It's a terrible state of affairs that we've gotten ourselves into. Like, I remember the first time I went to England on a plane, I'd known 6 and was only 13, and then none talked to me the whole way over to England. But you can imagine now if a 13-year-old was sitting beside that nun, he probably wouldn't talk to her.
Whereas you were looking for somebody to talk to.
I was looking for someone to talk to. I was on this small plane that could hear the engine roaring over and wondering was it going to get us there. And like she was talking, you know, whatever the whole way, like. But that communication level is gone.
Yeah, I think you've sparked a big discussion on the programme, Derek, and I think it's something we're going to continue on with. But lovely to talk to you today, and I'm delighted you could come on with us, Derek. Thank you for that.
Thanks very much, Frank.
Thank you. Good morning to you. That's Derek Russell there speaking to us from Roscrea this morning. That's it for me. Leanne produced, Ali looks after content. Stephen has the time tunnel on the lunchtime show, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. You look after yourselves, won't you? Bye-bye.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.